Yeah. but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You say you wanna cry, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You want. Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall. My love, if you feel like I do right now, don't say you're on the run to the other side. My love, you say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You say you wanna cry, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose.
We are so pleased to be bringing you the Titan Conqueror League here once again for the final week of the regular season, and we have a Group A matchup being featured tonight. It is Syndicate Coke who's taking on Bing Chiller's Rocky Road. The stakes of this matchup tonight are first seed potentially for Syndicate Coke if they grab the win, and Bing Chillers, who are on an unfortunate losing streak, want to grab one win which they need to secure playoffs. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ferris. I'm here to show the world, and I'm joined once again with Swifty on the broadcast desk. And ahead of this matchup, Swifty, what are your thoughts?
Two very different things on the line for both teams here, obviously, but equally important for yourself, you feel, if you're either one of these teams in these positions, right? Moving into playoffs, these are the games that matter regardless of sort of what position you're in, right? For teams that need to make playoffs, for teams that need to hold their spots, and for teams that need as best seeding as possible, right? You want to be playing matchups early on in playoffs that are going to set you up for success to make the deepest run possible, right? So Syndicate and Bing Chillers, obviously, they have their work set out for them this game. Both teams are going to hopefully bring as much as they can to the line. I'm looking to see some exciting gameplay here today, Ferris.
So am I. I'm ready for a banger to close out the regular season. We got best of fives rolling through here soon. So this is our last time with these best of three matches. And I wonder if Bing Chillers is sort of feeling the pressure of the losing streak they've been on. For those of you that do not know, they came out of the gate the first weeks with 3 wins, and the last 3 weeks, 3 losses. So now, with potentially, depending on how Odyssey Cronus does tonight as well, their playoff bout is on the line. They need a win here to really maximize their potential. I think it does guarantee them that spot. So I wonder if they're feeling this pressure, Swifty, if it's mounting on their shoulders, they're getting in their own heads. They're going to have to overcome that if they are feeling any of it at all, if they want to pull out the win here, as we're going to head into the draft very soon for game number 1 and see what these teams have in store for us.
Absolutely. If you're Bing Chillers in this situation, momentum and morale are huge things in League of Legends, and winning in any competitive sport, esport, etc. So I'm hoping to see a team that's going to really pick themselves up by the bootstraps and hunker down. If you're a team that's going to want to be successful in playoffs, you're a team that's going to have to pull out wins in situations like these. We're seeing some pretty typical bans from both sides coming out here. I know Corki is an incredibly strong pick right now. Aurora, another flex pick that is strong in multiple lanes. I believe Riot has just announced, if I'm not mistaken, that they're changing up some of Aurora. I don't know if that patch has gone through or not. As we're seeing some ADCs get banned out, we see Aphelios, we see Ashe. Ferris, I want to ask you here. Having seen a lot of Conqueror this season, being on the desk every single week, do you have any picks that you expect to see picked up here? Any priority picks for B1 or R2, R3?
Well, a lot of these picks are target, or at least some of these bans are target bans. The Aurora taken away actually from Super Chase, who plays a lot here. The Orin taken away from Espada, and Espada as well, if we're just talking about this player, also has the Aatrox and the Renekton in their bag. But let's talk about a first pick here for Syndicate Coke. It's going to be the Hui, likely going to go into the hands of Retail Row unless we see a Solo Mason mage bot, but that's not really hasn't been what Solo Mason likes to do. The Corki was a Solo Mason takeaway, so I expect to see another aggro AD carry, especially now that the Jinx is going to be locked in for Tonic, who has had wide success on these scaling types of champions, specifically the Kog'Maw in previous weeks. So definitely for Solo Mason, if I'm just going to give my predictions already with the scaling that Bing Chillers are drafting on their side, I am looking towards some aggro here in the bot side now that the Jinx is shown.
I'd have to agree with you. I think the Hui is an excellent first pick. It is flexible. We're most likely, like you said, going to see it played by Retail Row. However, the potency of a flex pick, even if you expect it to go one way, is that the unexpected can always happen in a game like this. As we're going to see, interestingly enough, a Lilia and a Jhin come out. Jhin is obviously a strong ADC right now. Has a good time sort of poking out a lot of enemy ADCs and depending on the matchup with the support as well. But I'm seeing a lot of scaling too on the side of Syndicate right now with the Lilia, as opposed to what looked to be at the time with the Ivern Jinx, a little bit of a defensive comp, let the Jinx get into team fights, pop off, scale, get those resets off. But we are going to see the Sylas come out, which is, in my opinion, a pretty spicy, flavorful pick here. Is a game warping pick with the ability to steal ultimates from other champions, obviously. So curious to see how these second phase picks come up. We're seeing looks to be supports banned out, Poppy and Braum for the side of Bing Chillers. They want to knock those out of the pool of frozen spuds. So interested rather to see what we have here from Tonic on R4.
They're going to take away the Gnar from Super Chase, And frontline is going to be a necessity for both teams. Now the Nautilus locked in for Nahor is going to provide an extra bit of frontline along with the Silas, who you don't necessarily want to be that solo frontline. The shields from the Ivern are going to come through as well. Frontline is needed. The Rel rolls through for Syndicate Coke, but their top laner pick, Espada, also has to play something. I'm looking towards maybe something like Cassante, something that can help out the rest of the team, and something that Espada is actually comfortable in now that the Ornn is taken away, but they're going to end up opting into the Renekton blind. We'll see what the response is from Super Chase. Probably the reason why the Gnar ban actually went through is because not only is Super Chase really good at Gnar, but it also is pretty tough into the Renekton. Not going to see what the final pick will be on R5, but we'll get confirmation as to what it is in a moment.
Yeah, on the note of Cassante or something, like a super strong, tanky frontliner, especially moving into a composition that is a little bit more geared towards late game damage, identity, we are going to get confirmation that it is, in fact, Jace, wow. I believe. Interestingly enough. Interesting comp. But back to the Renekton really quick. I think having it be a blind top pick, Renekton is good for that. It is a pretty universally sort of useful champion. Yeah, just the ability to stun. It's relatively powerful early game. It has pretty good matchups. It's in a great state in the competitive environment. And with, like you said, Alawi and Gnar off the table, I have a feeling that Espada is a little bit more comfortable picking it blind. However, I have never seen, I don't think, the Jace Renekton top matchup, at least for a few seasons, probably. I feel like I've seen it in professional play prior. But interestingly enough, there's very, very little frontline damage on this team for Bing Chillers. And sort of an interesting identity. I'd like to hear your input on that, because it's not quite poke, it's not quite protect the Jinx. They have multiple damage threats, but in sort of different capacities. Jace obviously being sort of more poke-oriented with that sort of finishing burst. Silas is pretty bursty, but also has some some sustain with sort of 1v1 and 2v2 skirmish fights, and then Jinx obviously a teamfight oriented ADC. I'm curious to hear what you think, Ferris.
They scale like monsters, and that is the obvious thing with the Jinx. With the Ivern, your late game is going to be incredible, but that also sacrifices a little bit of early game power. I expect Sovereign to play towards this Jace in the early stages unless he feels the need to protect Tonic down here and make sure that a massive lead isn't accrued by Syndicate Coke's bot lane. The Jhin isn't necessarily as oppressive into the Jinx, so it might be fine there. The Jace Renekton matchup is Jace favored for pretty much the entirety of it. It really just depends on how good of a Jace player you are, because this champion, you can be really insane Nuggery levels of Jace, throw back to him on Dom 1 when he was an absolute beast, con levels of Jace, and then you can mess up once and then your whole game starts to fall apart. So for Espada, you're looking for that one mistake from Super Chase to really take over the lane. You get plated steel caps, you take less damage, you can actually start to take over. If Sovereign can help Super Chase get the lead he needs, that might be able to bridge the transition to the late game for the side of Bing Chillers in this game number 1, as we are ready to head onto the Rift.
Excited to see how these play out. Obviously, I want to take a nod at Syndicate's composition as well. Obviously, Renekton is not necessarily a scaling matchup into a Jace. However, Hui damage, Jhin damage late, as well as Lilia damage are nothing to be scoffed at. This is a game, I have a feeling, where if not a lot happens early, we could potentially see pretty explosive fights later in the game. I think there's a lot of damage on both of these teams. Neither of these teams really opted into much of a front line. You could argue that I think the tankiest champion on either team are the supports, which typically don't have the income to actually be full face tanking into teams with damage compositions like this. So curious to see how this goes for the early game and into mid game, and how they're going to set themselves up for later game fights. Obviously, having an explosive Jinx is a very, very easy avenue to sort of steer yourself towards, and a win condition and an identity to be looking to complete here. But we're not going to get a lot of action here early.
No, we're not. Sovereign on the Ivern is going to act like a pseudo frontline when those late game items roll through. That is the one benefit of having less frontline for Bing Chillers, is those extra shields will keep these key targets like Tonic, even Zumi, who's going to be spending a lot of time in the front line, safe. Sometimes even Super Chase if he's in the melee form. And on the other side, it's Renekton, it's Rel. They have to be the ones to stay alive and make sure that they can find lilting lullabies from Paka Paul, who needs to be able to get this lead over the Ivern, has to be able to start to outpace and really take over the game around neutral objectives, out farming, counter jungling. Pakapal is a Lilia player. This is his most played champion. He's most comfortable on it. He's a carry-oriented jungler as well. So I'm looking towards this player to kind of spearhead the progress and the success of the Syndicate Coke side, as I believe there's also questions in the community as to whether Pakapal can be the jungler here and help them out for Syndicate Coke now that Mist is not in the lineup right now, who has been jungling for them a lot recently.
Sure. Games like this where a lot is on the line, that can always be a daunting thing. But for some people, it's a thing that, having the opportunity to step up into a sort of high stakes, possibly stressful situation can really turn players and teams online. I'm hoping that's what we see here out of Bing Chillers, out of Pakapal. You love to see storylines like that where teams can really overcome sort of morale deficits, I guess you can put it. So really excited to see what this team's going to bring to the table here. I think it's an interesting matchup in the jungle. Two just like very, very different identities here. As a jungler myself, speaking about these two junglers, obviously Ivern is basically a support in the jungle role, whereas Lilia can become a late game monster, but has very, very high team making, catalyst sort of team play ability here with the ultimate and the ability to deal a lot of max health damage. So we're gonna see a little bit of fighting up on the top side.
Super Chase wants to keep that range away from Espada, but again, you have to keep your distance. Your margins of error on this Jace pick are very low. A lot of pressure on Super Chase here, especially if Pakapal wants to pay attention to this lane like he is now. Super Chase isn't very low, so I don't think he's necessarily in danger of a dive, but they're looking. A big trade from Espada here would be nice to lower his HP before they end up going for that. They're trying to stack the wave to see if something can happen, although I'm not sure. I'm a little bit nervous right now, Swifty, as to whether this play is going to work out.
Early game damage is not quite as strong as a lot of other jugglers as they're going for it.
Have to go on the stun here. Flash away from Chase. It's disaster immediately. It's first blood to the side of Bing Chillers. 2 kills are going to go over to the Jace as well. They at least trade it back, but bot side, Tonic and Nahor win the 2 versus 2 on the scaling Jinx. And it seems like right off the hop, Syndicate Coke's game is not looking too good for them.
Yeah, you never really want to be in that position. It always feels a little bit unfortunate to be pulling, or not pulling off, rather, dives that you plan and that you set up. You gotta sort of, put into your head, necessarily if they had thought that out fully through. You and I had the discussion briefly and came to the conclusion that we don't know if Lilia's damage is quite there to be taken on a Jace, especially with a Renekton sort of like pre-back items here, but they go for it. Unfortunately, it doesn't go their way. However, I don't think they're in any position to be, saying FF, throwing up those GGs in all chat. One bad play happens. Clearly, I like the idea that they're trying to make plays happen on the map. Playing into, like you said, a very scaling team like this means you are playing on sort of a timer, especially with the Renekton. There's going to be a point in the game where the Renekton is sort of a one-trick pony. Really wants to, get that dash, get that stun off, and sort of disrupt the beginning of a fight, but isn't necessarily the tankiest champion in the late game, doesn't necessarily have the craziest high damage in the late game. So I like that they're trying to make plays happen early, Ferris.
In games like this on the Renekton, as we'll see, Super Chase now is going to be punished on this gank. Does not have flash, wants to trade back 1 for 1, getting very close. The level 6 from Espada rolls through, doesn't end up needing the Dominus to survive, and so it will be Syndicate Coke getting one back, but their mid laner in the meantime is getting tag teamed here by Zumi and Sovereign. The hijack spiraling despair will be just enough for Zumi to grab their first kill of the game, and both teams picking up blood here at the 6-minute mark.
Yep, I like the response up top lane. They know the flash was burned on the dive for Super Chase on the Chase there. They make a play happen off of the fighting between the Renekton and the Jace, and they're able to pick themselves up a kill. Espada barely getting out of that one alive, as we're doing a little bit of a dance here around the grubs. We'll see if this amounts to anything. However, you don't necessarily like to be Syndicate Coke in this situation. If you know that a Sylas having early kills and a Jace early kills can put a little bit of a dent in your plan. However, they're still going to be looking to try and put pressure. I think it looks like Pakapal is trying to put as much pressure on those grubs for as long as possible. Ultimately has to back out. Is going to give up the first objective of the game to Bing Chillers here. Ivor just going to do his best as a tree, whacking away at those grubs. But I really like the way Syndicate is looking for plays here, and I like even better the way that Bing Chillers is responding to them, really finding stuff on the map to get these late game sort of hyper carries online as early as possible.
I feel like at this point of the game, Syndicate Coke should not be willing to give away neutral objectives like the Void Grubs, as Retail Rose walking right into a World of Hurt once again. The root from the Ivern comes through. Nahor is there for the assist as well. Zumi grabs kill number 2, and that just further proves my point right now, Swifty. The solo laners with kills, you talked about it as well. The Stylus having kills so early. This makes it harder for them to contest neutrals and build up a lead, which they need into this composition that has such a powerful game later on for Bing Chillers.
Absolutely. It's a position you don't want to be in. It's a position that you can come back from, but you have to turn.
Spot is in trouble. Here comes Daisy as well. He does not have flash. Pop the Dominus, though. That's a ton of damage. He comboed down onto Super Chase, but he lives with just a sliver of HP. The double slice and dice will not be enough, but Super Chase goes back in and gives him the free kill there. Espada in the 2 versus 1. Looking real good on this Crocodile, trying to get away from Daisy. In the end will fall, but 1 for 1. That is a good outcome here for Syndicate Coke's top laner.
Yeah, it's almost impressive how the tempo with which Bing Chillers is playing at, particularly with a comp that isn't necessarily online in most games at the 8.5-minute mark. I think it's very impressive. They clearly look coordinated, clearly proving why they are a first seed team and looking to secure that right here. However, hats off to Espada there, looking for as long as the Renekton could for that play, for that double E into the Q, excuse me, for that picked up kill. You gotta wonder if Super Chase maybe didn't need to go for the knockback, as we're gonna see another fight here in the mid.
Retail Row, that chunk there, that is so much damage.
Wow.
It makes it so insanely hard for Hui to abuse the range in lane. Zumi taking over this early, it bodes so well for Bing Chillers. At the very least, Syndicate Coke grab the Ocean Drake so they can start dragon stacking at the very early stages of the game, see if that can translate into anything later on. But in that 2 versus 1, if you're the Jace, you have to respect the melee power of Espada on the Renekton. If you get too close, you're going to get torn apart, just like Retail Row is right now from Zumi. But thankfully, Pakapal is here to save the day. Spiraling Despair will claim the shutdown, and the Hui is on the board when they desperately needed to get there.
Absolutely. They're finding ways back into this after a little bit of a rocky start. And I fully agree with you right now, and we can see it happening in the 1v1 situation. The Jace already sort of able to bully this out. We're getting another fight, and we're not. Good job, bro. Yeah, we're already seeing sort of the power of the Jace into the Renekton matchup. We're seeing the power of a Sylas with 2 kills early. Has that Hextech Alternator already, which is just even more added burst with the Electrocute on this champion. Completed Sorcerer's Shoes, rather, already. We're getting more chopping. And
it's pop from Espada. With Slice and Dice, you can close the gap so easily. Super Chase did not respect his power. Pakapal is here for the alley-oop. The Swirl Seed landed. The flash is used by both top laners, but it's now 3 kills for Espada's Renekton. And at this point, Swifty, I'm favoring him all day in the way that this top lane matchup has panned out.
Absolutely. It's unfortunate for Super Chase. However, maybe greed came into play here. Obviously, a few really good plays for the side of Bing Chillers in both solo lanes happening early. However, just to remind viewers that we've been discussing, they aren't necessarily the highest early game damage champions without leads. That they think they had been acquiring, but just one misstep and just one sort of overzealous play can put you in an unfortunate position. And like you said, Renekton now has 3 kills, has those steel caps activated, is going to be able to be a little bit of an early game catalyst as we need this Renekton to be if this team's going to be successful moving into sort of mid-game objective takes. So props to them for sort of crawling and clawing their way back out of a little bit of a dicey position here. As we're going to look at Syndicate Coke trying to pick up these second grubs. They had to give the first ones off of some rocky plays in the beginning. However, Bing Chillers is going to contest with 4.
Everyone is here. Dredgeline lands onto Frozen Spuds. It's 4 versus 3. It's going to be the crash down to stun up only Nahor, and now Pakapal is caught up in the middle of the front line from the side of Bing Chillers. That's a massive shock blast, and the slam, the skies from Super Chase getting the double kill in this play might just mean 6 grubs as well for Bing Chillers. That is the comeback play that this Jace needed. A back and forth top lane matchup, but once again, Bing Chillers, off the back of a couple unfortunate plays, they pull themselves back into this game, and they have 6 grubs now to work with.
I have a feeling, Ferris, we might be seeing a little bit of a back and forth game here. Both teams taking swings and making some big lands and a few misses as well. But I really like the tempo, like I said before, with which Bing Chillers is playing right now. You can see that come to fruition in which team has the better setup. Mid priority was not achieved yet for Solo Mason on that Jhin. Solo Mason wasn't really able to join that fight fully at any real point. So you had 4 members for Bing Chillers actually able to step into that river and walk up on Syndicate Coke here, whereas Syndicate really only had 3, and Jhin was sort of forced to catch that wave, try and get priority in the mid lane. So tempo advantage for Bing Chillers sort of allows them to make a play that's going to be successful for them. Syndicate playing a little bit behind tempo-wise is what's really the difference in plays like those. So hopefully moving into these next fights, you want to see that hopefully they're going to learn from their mistakes, maybe their off-tempo sort of plays here. Again, this is a very close game. We're only separated by about less than 2 gold, right? So about 1.5k gold lead for the side of Bing Chillers. Both teams have clear avenues into these fights. Both teams now have some items completed with these traded kills going back and forth. So looking to see how Syndicate adjusts their game plan here, Ferris, moving into these next dragons and subsequent, Rift Heralds and Barons here.
They most definitely have to contest Bing Chillers on the plays that they go for because of the fact that 6 Grubs is so powerful. If you try and trade things cross map, they have the stronger pushing power. So if I'm Bing Chillers as well, I'm looking to exploit that power and finding picks on side lanes that are going to translate into towers. Let's look at Super Chase though. Once again, this is a familiar feeling for both top laners being ganked here. Going to try and knock back a Espada to keep that range going, but here comes the Lilting Lullaby, and that should just mean he is a goner. There comes the damage to roll through, and it's going to be another pick up in the top side for Syndicate Coke as the dragon respawns down on the other side of the map.
Big Chillers is going to know that obviously Lilia's up there, possibly trying to solo the Rift. Just got that kill play onto their own top laner. They're going to correctly respond by trying to take a dragon for themselves, which would be their first of the game. Cloud Dragon into an Ocean Dragon. However, excellently played up there by Syndicate Coke. I really like the Renekton's discipline and the patience there, holding the Drowsy for the Lilia W to come through and get that sort of critical spike damage on the center there. Combos it with the Q. And they're able to pick up that kill. It's a lot of damage that comes through, particularly onto a Jace with just an Eclipse, a tier, Caulfield's Warhammer, right? No defensive items.
So much trouble. Has no flash. Nahor is going to find the dredge line, but here's the counterpunch. Pakapal has joined the party. There's a Super Mega Death Rocket that's going to get some damage onto the Syndicate Coke members. Nahor forced to flash away. Sovereign very low as well. Gets a bit of shielding from the Ivern, and they're trying to make this a 2-for-1, but the deadly flourish from downtown. Solo Mason! Oh, it's actually the Curtain Call that grabs 2. Super Chase trying to make this a little bit better for his side. To the skies will finish off Paka Paul. But it's Retail Row who ends up being the bait, and Syndicate Coke who get the positive play. Super Chase wants a little more. Deadly Flourish gonna miss, and that'll be the end of this play.
Wow, excellent curtain call from Solo Mason there. I thought that was Deadly Flourish as well. I did not realize that. But as soon as the second one comes out, you know what that is. I don't know if there was a spectator bug there. I didn't necessarily see the bounds of the.
I don't think. Yeah, we didn't see the bounds. That was the big thing.
However, excellently played by Solo Mason. I think the power of the Lilia there coming out. As a jungler, it's all I can keep my eyes on. The Conqueror as well as the passive healing out of this Lilia is just so disgusting when you can get multi-man sort of abilities off and those Qs off. You see the Lilia drop to maybe like 200 HP, and then within a second and a half is back up to 450, 500 HP. They can't quite get the kill down. Lilia is able to get a lot of damage off quickly. They sort of stall out the fight and slow play as best as they can there, and they were able to pick up a lot of kills there. That's a big swing. The gold is now even actually here for these two teams. We're seeing a shutdown on the Renekton, 100 gold shutdown, as well as a 150 gold shutdown on Jhin, Solo Mason's Jhin. They're starting to pick tempo back up, which is a place that this team comp should be in on paper, playing into Bing Chiller's more scaly, heavy damage comp later in the game. So they've seemed to have picked up footing back up. But again, both teams have been making punches here. This game feels like it could be sort of swung back and forth to anybody's pocket at any moment in time. So excited to see what these two teams are going to bring to the table. Looks like both teams are actively grouping now, actively looking to get set up for objectives. There is nothing on the map for the next 3 minutes, but we're going to see Retail Row again.
Retail Row's in trouble. Has flash, should just use it to get over the wall towards the tower, but might just say, no, I don't need that. Has that discipline there to maintain that summoner spell in his pocket as mid tier 1 drops from the side of Bing Chillers. They lose that, and the map opens up for Syndicate Coke here. Nahor may be fishing for a dredge line. In the end, not going to pull the trigger. The way that I see the success for both of these teams is get kills off of Lilting Lullaby for Syndicate Coke. You want to get that initial engage. Maybe it's a Renekton stun. Maybe it's a flash Q from Lilia to set up that 5% ult. Curtain Call can roll through as well. If Bing Chillers can survive that initial onslaught of damage, though, then they have the Jinx to continue to follow up with DPS. Then they have Ivern shields to outpace their opponents in the fights. They have more longevity. They can stay for longer. Kingslayer gives Zumi some healing as well. And the poke that they can play off of from Super Chase's Jace, now on 2 items, stacked Manamune. Doesn't matter how many times he's died, he's still going to be dealing damage. So that's what both teams should play for here. Zumi and Espada in a 1 versus 1, but Sovereign shows his face, and Espada will back away.
Absolutely. I'm looking to see Bing Chillers here as we start getting into these more pivotal objectives. This will be, well, second Drake isn't necessarily as pivotal, but it is the first Mountain Drake on the board for either team. However, we have in 1 minute and 38 seconds, Baron coming up. That's obviously a very pivotal objective. I'm looking to see Bing Chillers focus on objective control, early objective setup. Like you said, this is a team that can play off their poke very, very well. Jinx poke isn't necessarily insane, however, it's something with the zap, the W, but Jace poke rather is very, very potent. As we're gonna get even more sparring in the bot lane, that'll ultimately end up to nothing.
Zumi and Espada now. This is going to be the lane assignment here. So for range, Super Chase might like the Hui matchup a little bit better. He's not having a Renekton double dash onto his face. Zumi might also like the ability to be able to get onto his opponent much easier. There's also plated steel caps that were purchased for Espada, so those aren't going to be too helpful when you're playing against the very heavy magic damage of the Sylas. So I honestly favor Zumi as maybe a couple more items roll through in that lane assignment around this next Drake that is going to spawn up. Rift Herald is here for Syndicate Coke. They're utilizing this to get priority in the rivers. Actually, Frozen Spuds? Okay, he knows. He's saying, okay, wait a second. I made the wrong choice. I'm out of here.
Yep, that I've done those misclicks, and then you turn into haha JK. I was just going around. We're seeing a fight on the
going
backside
right
first.
in. They're gonna try and get onto Nahor. He's gone immediately. The curtain call damages a lot, but Pocket Paul's already down to half HP. Super Chase is in the middle of everyone. The Spiraling Despair should be able to finish him off, but the Renekton flashes immediately into the Jinx, who gets the reset. Pay attention to Tonic. That's already 2 kills, maybe a 3rd, and now this will definitely mean Drake here for Bing Chillers. It will mean 3 kills to their Jinx. That is the fight that they needed here at the 20-minute mark.
An excellent fight from Syndicate Coke at the beginning there, but Bing Chillers is able to buy just enough time for Jinx to get resets, for that Ivern to really stall just enough for them to get that off. They don't necessarily want to be putting themselves in that position every fight, as it was close. I'll give them that. Syndicate did an excellent job pulling the trigger there. However, that's the power of the Jinx. All it takes is it's a kill. All it takes is Zumi really buying enough time, as well as Sovereign buying enough time, sort of with the shields, with the self-sustain on the Sylas, to get this Jinx online and activated and reset in these fights. We are now dealing with a Collector BF Sword 4-0 Jinx. This is a Jinx that's going to hit really, really hard. I do like the Collector build here. There isn't necessarily any nasty frontline tanks or beef boys for the side of Syndicate here. That Collector gets more value into more squishy and sort of more damage-oriented team compositions into stuff like Lilia, into stuff like Jhin, into Hui. It is a pretty nasty item. And we're going to see, wow, the Infinity Edge completed on back here. This is a Collector Infinity Edge Jinx. Doesn't necessarily have a lot of attack speed, but once you get those resets off Ferris, absolutely disgusting in team fights.
It's incredible how 21 minutes to have Infinity Edge like that is insane. Let's look at Super Chase, who's once again in a 2 versus 1. Nahor is here, but I don't think you can save your top laner. I think he's gone. He's going to try and kite away, has the knockback, has the movement speed of the phase rush. They don't want to commit the Lilting Lullaby. They're not going to in the end. Pocket Paul will finish off that kill, and that's going to be +1 for them. Probably the tier 1 to follow, although it is going to be the TP from Zumi. I was going to say about this Jinx, having Infinity Edge so early on when it's such an expensive item, 3,600 gold, is definitely a amazing thing for their team. Let's look at the tower defense right now from Zumi, Nahor, and Sovereign. Daisy's here as well, so maybe it's a 4 versus 4. We can view it like that from downtown. Tonic will grab the first kill of the fight on the other side of the map with the super mega death rock, and Lilting Lullaby defensively from Pakapal with a flash forward. The dredge line from Nahor might just bring him into his own death as the swirl seed lands, and Solo Mason will grab that one to make it a 1-for-1 here in the top side of the map. Deadly Flourish goes wide, and that will mean the fight is over for both teams. Very close here around the tier 1 tower.
Excellent use of the Hui ultimate from Zumi there. It puts out so much AoE damage. They're really able to lock up and slow up Syndicate on this tower push here. Syndicate should know that they really need to be hitting tower sort of immediately before setup happens for this fight. They don't necessarily get the tempo off there. They don't get the tower down. It's much harder to be taking a fight as we're seeing another engage from Zumi.
Zumi wants this. Teleport flanking him, though. Should be able to run this one out, but here's Pakapal as well. Does not have Lilting Lullaby. The Abduct is going to go onto the Lilia, doing so much damage as Zumi has a Lilting Lullaby of his own. I don't even think he can use this ultimate. It's going to be a Deadly Flourish to land, and Zumi's going to go down. They're pinging onto the tier 1 tower is Bing Chillers, but that's a healthy tower, Swifty. I don't think they can take it at time. They're forced to walk back, and that's +1 here for Syndicate Coke.
Unfortunate positioning, but great job capitalizing on the aggression of Zumi. Zumi's been playing very, very aggressive on the Sylas into the Hui one-on-one pretty much the entirety of the game here. Great job from Retail Row to sort of stall enough time. They're able to use the teleport effectively, pick up the kill. However, I do think that Sylas can use, and maybe someone's going to correct me, but I believe you can use Lilting Lullaby when you are the Sylas. I don't know how it works with the... I probably should know this. I play Lilia. But I don't know necessarily how it works with the timer, the poison sort of...
yeah.
Sleepy
the
dust.
Dream Dust passive.
Dream Dust. I was like, Sleepy Dust? What's it called? Dream Dust.
Close enough.
I'm not sure about that, but I do believe that there is some interaction that Sylas can use. I think he does damage akin to Lilia and then can press it. I'm not entirely sure. I'm sure someone in chat or elsewhere will correct me if that is not the case. But didn't look like it was used there.
Nope, he still got it.
He's still got it. And honestly, props to Zumi, props to Sylas there. I think you want to be holding that when you see 5 people and a TP expended and you're running sort of towards the wrong base. Maybe not the most effective time to use this ultimate. And we know that a fight around Baron could be happening soon, and a fight around Dragon, which would be the 3rd Dragon for Bing Chillers, could be happening soon as well. However, there is a time limit on that ultimate, so if they want to be using the Lilting Lullaby, if they can even use it, I'll add that caveat, they sort of want to be looking to pull the trigger soon here.
I think they more just want to react to what the side of Syndicate Coke does. I think if they want to give away this Drake, they're fine with that. They already have 2. They don't necessarily need to force the issue here. More and more, I'm seeing that this is going to just be the tonic show. The CS department for Zumi is really lacking at the 25-minute mark. And so even though he's had a couple kills, he's still falling pretty far behind in the gold department. So more and more, I'm putting more priority on how well Tonic can do. Is now we're going to see Lilting Lullaby. It's going to go down onto 2 members, and the fight is just going to break off right here as Chaos explodes just behind the Baron Pit. Tonic trying to deal as much damage as he possibly can, but 2 of his frontline members are already down. He's going to try and get the reset here onto the Rel. Is going to get it. Now hits onto Solo Mason. The rest of Syndicate Coke retreat. Sovereign able to escape, but it is a 3-for-1 in favor of Syndicate Coke. And they might just run it down to the Drake and take that one for themselves.
It looks like they were almost worried. They did not have priority in the top lane. Looks like Bing Chillers was almost worried that maybe they were getting Baron set up in the meantime and rotating off of the Dragon. However, they're sort of caught out in the crossfire. They don't get an engage off on the Renekton, on a spot as Renekton. That the Lilting Lullaby is absolutely gnarly there. Swirl Seed's able to hit 2 members, one key member being Ivern. You have no real peel outside of the Ivern, maybe a little bit from Nautilus, who is a little bit better on engages, I would say. However, you know, has the Dredge Line, has the ultimate to sort of peel. But they get a very good Swirl Seed Lilting Lullaby off there. They're able to pull the trigger. And like we said, Bing Chillers, if they can't buy the time in these fights for Jinx to get a reset, she didn't get a reset until, I think, the kill on the Rel later in the fight. But that's really all they got off that. And we're going to see the second Drake, like you said, picked up for Syndicate. Syndicate doing a great job here of finding these angles into fights, playing on the paranoia and the lack of setup from Bing Chillers. Like I said before, I really... it's a hard thing to do, particularly when maybe you don't have the items and the power spikes that you need yet. Like you said on the Sylas, it's Yeah, really only a Hextech Rocket Belt and the Cosmic Drive. Not necessarily the most damage output at the almost 27-minute mark in the game. But this is a team that sort of needs to get poke off and then sort of needs to bide their time in these fights, like you said. They need to be playing off of a misstep or a misengage from the side of Syndicate Coke. When they're sort of caught in between, rotating between objectives, and Syndicate is able to pull the trigger with something like the Lilia, it's not necessarily the best position for Big Chillers to be in, and we see that come to fruition in the last fight.
They don't have, again, we talked about it early on in this game, minute 1, the frontline problems for both sides. Pakapal is going to walk into a whole world of hurt, though. The dredge line actually goes wide. Depth charge comes through before the lilting lullaby. Pakapal will be knocked up, but he is A-okay. Not enough follow-up here from the side of Bing Chillers, and now they are in a pinch position right now. Tonic forced to flash away, but Retail Row ended up getting flanked himself. The first kill of the game is going to go to Bing Chillers. The first kill of the fight, rather. Super Mega Deathrock is going to roll on through. Sovereign was cut off from the rest of the team. That is Jungler down for BCS. Pakapal wants to look for more. Over the wall, the Swirl Seed will go wide. The Spada still waiting, but that should be it for this play. And now Solo Mason getting priority in the mid lane will put pressure on BCS to try and find a fight here, and that they do. Pakapal has walked into too many people. The stasis will only delay the inevitable, and Tonic is godlike.
Oh, we see Solo Mason saying, screw it, I'm pushing mid. My Jungler got caught. Yeah, interesting fight there. A little bit back and forth. I was worried Bing Chillers might get wiped with that flank play. However, they're able to buy just enough time. Jinx expends the cleanse, expends the flash, is able to get out of the way of a fatal curtain call shot there. And they're able to get out of that fight. They buy enough time. A little bit of a misstep from Pakapal, looking for too much on the backside of what seemed to be a dead play. And Solo Mason is just going to keep pushing waves off this. Jin does fairly good damage to towers as an ADC, with also the Collector and the IE at this point in the game, but with the Yomus. So a lot of flat AD coming out for this Jin. Obviously is going to hurt a lot in these fights, but I'm wondering, Ferris, if at any point in this game, and off of these plays rather, that maybe both teams are getting a little bit hesitant, a little bit antsy. It seems like the starts and the finishes of these fights for both teams pretty chaotic. Which, in my opinion, can be indicative of teams maybe getting a little bit flustered, maybe realizing there's a lot on the line, and that this is anyone's game.
Absolutely, especially for Bing Chillers. Again, if they don't win this game, they have a legitimate chance where they aren't in a world where they make playoffs. They started their season so well, 3-0, to have it all crumble before them after what they thought would almost guarantee them a spot after week number 3. That kind of start would be devastating. And with a couple of these fights, we talked about the fact that they don't have a very suitable front line. When it is Syndicate Coke to have the priority over these neutral objectives, you have to walk in. Someone's got to walk in if you're Bing Chillers and face a potential Rel Engage, face a Swirl Seed into a Lilting Lullaby, face a Spada to stun lock you on the Renekton, and then they can't really tank for their Jinx. This is the problem right now for Bing Chillers' composition. If they don't have to worry about that, I really favor the ability for Tonic to take over this game. So looking towards moving into these objectives as a team and looking to lock them down so that the side of Syndicate Coke cannot utilize their priority to get fight wins.
Tanky Lilia, by the way. Not necessarily low enough for that final curtain call shot. Yeah, the armor coming through clutch there. Lilia's always builds a little bit of health. It does really well with Conqueror and health / AP items to be a sort of like a sustained fight AP bruiser-ish character, but typically does get smacked pretty hard by stuff like a Jhin ultimate. However, they don't really land the CC there that they needed Bing Chillers to get that, but however, they're going to start this Baron off of that play. They know that Syndicate has to walk into the river here if they want to stop it, and they're going to back off and maybe just not pull the trigger. Maybe they realize, hey, we don't have the stuff, we don't have the juice to really make this happen, but we're still dancing around this.
They want to keep them as far away from the Mountain Drake as they can. They feel like they have no prior over the Drake, so they're making their own priority. They're saying, we're going to take Baron if you don't contest us. So now you have to walk into us. Now this is a better situation for us. Let's see what Espada can do here on the Renekton. Goes into the Dominus, stuns up Super Chase, who immediately is going to drop to the Scorch damage of the Renekton. That is incredible. And the Hui will pick up another one as well. Retail Row on the board for this fight. The chase continues for Syndicate Coke. Zumi locked up by the Severing Bolt is going to use the Protocol to try and build some space away, but he's going to use the Abductor to go right back in. I don't know if that's exactly what you want. The Magnet Storm is going to pull multiple people in, but he is trying to delay as best as he can, utilizing the flash, but Solo Mason's 4th shot will seal his fate, and the Baron now for Syndicate Coke is inevitable.
Oh, unfortunate for Zumi there, how hubris can defeat the young. You see that a solo queue play a lot where Usadas goes back in. Ultimately, not necessarily the best move there. They're going to get this Baron. The Baron was probably secured regardless of what that chase looked like at the end of that fight there, Ferris. Syndicate Coke plays this fight well. They knew the game plan off. That is, nope, Super Mega Death Rocket. Not quite going to be there. Great look, though. Ivan can't really get in the pit. Great job from Frozen Spuds on Rel to really stall there. They're able to pick a lot up off that fight. Tempo is surely in their hands now. They are up 7k gold. They are TPing, double TPing to this dragon to make sure that they don't lose it before it can be started. They're grabbing priority. And Bing Chillers is in a position where they don't really have the wallet to sort of walk up here and gain priority of their own jungle. They're losing their camps, they're losing the Scuttle Crab for vision, and Syndicate's gonna grab their 3rd Drake of the game uncontested, it looks like, Ferris.
They're playing a very controlled game in the mid game. It was so chaotic earlier on, but in the last couple minutes, they've been in control. And this is a team that likes to play a controlled matchup. I've looked at a lot of their games that they played. They are long games, not a ton of kills. It doesn't even look like their members are doing super well in these games KDA-wise, but they're pulling out wins through their controlled playstyle. And right now, Bing Chillers are the recipients of this. They knock down the tier 2 with the Baron buff. They get the Mountain Drake. They use double TPs for it. They are not giving Bing Chillers anything for free. They're slowly choking them out of this game. The one X factor is this Jinx. It is Super Chase who's so far behind. He gets one shot by anyone. Same story for Zumi. This Jin is incredibly strong. The question is, can they get just a couple fights here for Tonic to free hit and get excited? That is really their only avenue in this one.
Absolutely. Jinx is a game warping pick and a game warping team fight pick, like we've said. And really starting to close in on their only avenue for victory. However, Jinx as a solo win condition is absolutely a viable thing. This champion is very, very strong in any level of play, in competitive, in coordinated, right, in solo queue. Jinx has the tools to absolutely turn the tables here. They have to find that window and they have to play these fights intelligently if they are going to do so. And Syndicate using the big brain that they
Chase is going to be dove and into the Dominus goes Espada. There's just not enough damage from the Jace to stay alive. This will be tier 2 down 5 versus 4 on the map for Syndicate Coke. I think they're just going to brute force this one, Swifty. I think they have the luxury of being able to do so. They're going to jump onto the inhibitor tower in the top side. They're going to take it down for free. Zumi is clearing away the mid lane for Bing Chillers right now. The inhibitor will have a similar fate, and they'll back this one right off. That is an excellent macro play from Syndicate Coke's side.
Absolutely. They're using their advantage to put a lot of pressure on multiple parts of the map. With Bing Chillers just can't respond to everything at once. It's just not in the cards for them at this point. They're able to find the pick play. They press down hard. They get both turrets and the inhibitor. And now we're looking at, within the next few minutes and more items on the board for Syndicate. They still have a little bit of Baron left, I believe. Actually, I think it just went out. It just went out. However, they still have the pushing power. Let's not lie to ourselves there. And they can look to keep up this pressure. They're playing a very disciplined game. For a little bit of a rocky start for both teams. It's impressive to see how disciplined now the Syndicate Coke team is playing. And it's probably the reason why they've picked up a lot of wins this season. As I actually don't know who got the blue buff there. I think it was Ivern with the smite. But
I think it was as well. Honestly. This game, you look at the AD carries, they have perfect KDAs, they're deathless, Tonic's been playing well, Solo Mason's been playing phenomenal. My really outstanding performance thus far in this game has been Espada on this Renekton. Had a really rough start with the early dive, not going his way, now able to, with the help of Pocket Paul, get himself into a strong position with a couple ganks, has been the person to start off the fights for Syndicate Coke as well, with just straight up stuns when Super Chase or other members are disrespecting him and it comes to the range. This Renekton is really strong. He is a super key frontline component of the Syndicate Coke side in a team composition that desperately needs a little bit of frontline for the team. So Espada has been my breakout player of the matchup so far. Izumi's going to get caught out here. Spiraling Despair going to be utilized from Retail Row to lock him down. He goes into stasis, but it will not save him. The damage is too much, and once again, it is Syndicate Coke with the person advantage.
Great discipline holding the Lilting Lullaby for that Zonius to come through, at which point when the Zonius comes down, the Silas is already dead, but that's a common mistake you see a lot of times. Just really smart decision-making play on that fight. And now Packapal still has a Lilting Lullaby, but
he's going to get hooked up, though. Has to go into stasis. Pay attention to Tonic here. The Super Mega Death Rocket rolls through. That's two kills! The collateral damage of the Jinx Rockets is insane. They're going to try and chase down the remaining members of Syndicate Coke, but Packapal flies too close to the sun, and that sun has a lot of crit items in their inventory.
Absolutely. That damage is nuts. Like we've been talking about, it's an absolutely game-warping pick in fights where it comes off.
Retail Row's a goner too. He's done for here, Swifty. He has nowhere to go. Shutdown goes to Tonic. And now with the Drake spawning soon, this is going to possibly deny the soul potential from Syndicate Coke.
We're going to scrapes with these dragons, Ferris, as Jinx is absolutely turning the tables on these fights. But Super Chase, where are you going,
on with Super Chase? He's chasing pretty akin to his name, but it's going to be his detriment. You just don't have to go for this right now. The Drake was free from your team's side. Now Curtain Call from Solo Mason's going to run through. It's going to hit one onto Tonic, two onto Tonic. Someone tank for this Jinx. Nahor going to step in front of that fourth shot. And now this means Soul is so easy for Syndicate Coke. It's a critical misplay from Super Chase in the tail end of this game number one.
They tried to bite off way more than they could chew, Ferris, and it absolutely puts one more nail in the coffin here. There is no reason this team should not have their third dragon of the game. There's no reason that they should be grabbing Soul Point here. As we're going to go into a pause, which is going to give us a... Nope, we're not. Right back to the action, Ferris. There's no reason that play should happen. You know, it's one of those moments where if you're Super Chase, you gotta just take a deep breath and you know, sort of screw your head back on your shoulders here. There's no reason to be going for plays like that. You know what the play is. The play is to stop Syndicate from getting a Mountain Soul. Having that shield and having those added resistances buys them that much, you know, sort of more security in these fights. It makes it that much harder for Jinx to get these kills off and get those resets off with that passive. And now... it's do or die, I think, if you're Bing Chillers. I think you have one more shot at this to make a play like that happen before this game ends. And they're going to try and make that happen here.
Frozen Spuds flashes away from the dredge line. Off of the Drake. Off of the Baron goes Pocket Paul, but he's found a Lilting Lullaby into Tonic, although he cleanses away from it, and he's going to be safe for the moment. Magnet Storm is absolutely huge. The Spiraling Despair damage from Retail Row will absolutely destroy this side of Bing Chillers. They fall. That was their last chance. You said it, Swifty. They only got one shot, and it did not go their way. Syndicate Coke will finish this one off. They grab the first win of this best of three and a very exciting 40-minute game.
Absolutely. Back and forth a lot for the early game there, and Super Chase going down one final time as Super Chase is chased into the fountain, their own fountain. However, you know, it's a little bit heartbreaking to see, but I want to highlight very clearly, you know, how well Tonic had played this Jinx. Both ADCs, Solo Mason on the Jhin as well. The avenues for success for both teams were clearly there. Obviously, Syndicate Coke pulling out the victory here in game one of this series. The avenue was there basically from the second half of the game onward very clearly, but the Jinx, like we said, as a sort of fight warping pick, has the potential to turn the tide. And did very clearly for 1 second, but again, it's when you're that far behind and when you're playing a wallet differential game, you don't have the room for error. And one small error, Super chasing a little too far into no man's land, really seals the deal for them. I'm hoping to see, you know, them cool themselves down a little bit. Again, this is their season possibly on the line. And those plays happen, those mistakes happen, particularly in game one. But, you know, a lot of the times that's all you need to sort of wake up. You know, that's your shot of adrenaline for the rest of the games in the series, Ferris.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's a game of margins, a game of inches. They were so close to be able to deny that soul and be able to play in less of a panic state. But yeah, you just said it. That one little misstep, the couple accumulation of plays don't go their way and things can change. So that is going to be game number one. Syndicate Coke, they're one win away from potentially securing themselves first seed in Group A. Well, now backs against the wall for Bing Chillers. They could potentially lose their spot in playoffs if they lose this best of 3. That might be going through their minds. I'm actually going to go out on a limb here and say it probably is here in the intermission between game 1 and 2. We'll see if they can battle back, if they can find the focus, regain, and get that win to force game number 3 after this very short break. Titan Conqueror League will return. Don't go anywhere.
my side, my side. Without you by my side. One time from side to side. Peekaboo, I see you, peekaboo, I see you. Looking at me, looking at you. Hold up, where you going? What you doing? Who you seeing? What you need? What you want? I said, without you by my side, my side, my side. Without you by my side. One time from side to side. Without you by my side, I can't go outside. Without you by my side, I can't go outside. Without you by my side, I can't go outside. One time from side to side. Stranded in the open, dried out tears of sorrow, lacking all emotion, staring down the barrel, waiting for the final gates to open to a new.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Titan Conqueror League, where we are seeing a Group A matchup this week between Syndicate Coke and Bing Chiller's Rocky Road. We're one game into the series. Syndicate Coke has a 1-0 lead, a very tight 40-minute game, but as a team, they were able to overcome their opponents, and they have that 1-0 advantage heading into game two. And we're going to see if Bing Chillers, with their backs against the wall, can potentially save their playoff spot that they're fighting for with a game two victory.
Absolutely. This is the moment where, you gotta you gotta bring it home, right? You gotta hunker down and you gotta make the right adjustments. So I'm looking forward to the first place where adjustments get made, and that is draft. Very excited to see how Bing Chillers might be switching things up. I think they have some key components that worked last game, namely the Jinx. and I think the Ivern and sort of that Nautilus, those early roam plays, really worked to their favor to put themselves in a fairly fine position there. However, I think maybe they want to be switching something up in the top side of the map, maybe lean into possibly a more ADC focused composition. I think Tonic pulled off an absolutely incredible game on the Jinx. I think was deathless until the very last moments of the game there, Ferris. And I think if you're the side of Syndicate Coke, I think you can let comfortably Bing Chillers make the adjustments. I think they played their draft pretty well, obviously, with a few missteps, maybe some early dives that didn't go their way. However, they were able to pick themselves up. They played a very disciplined game. They played a very macro heavy and sort of smart game, right? They kept their heads about them, and they were able to close that one out pretty soundly. We'll be finding, I guess, whether or not teams are switching sides or not in moments here. But I'm curious to hear if, from you, Ferris, if you have any opinions on what might change from both of these teams, one of these teams, moving into the Game 2's draft.
Well, I think from the side of Syndicate Coke, they played to their team composition relatively well when the things kind of went south in the top side. They were able to stop the bleeding with some attention there, and then their bot lane was pretty stable into the Jinx, and they ended up playing their more calm, cool, collected game to pull out the win. I think if it's a similar blueprint for them, they'll probably have success. And I think for the other side of Bing Chillers, I think I'm just going to echo your statements of the Jace had a hard time, probably switch that pick up. And if you're going to go for another scaling pick that Tonic really likes, the Jinx, the Aphelios that was banned away from Syndicate Coast side, even the Kog'Maws he's been playing in solo queue and has played previously in Conqueror. Those are the picks that you can utilize maybe a tank pick instead for Super Chase to protect him and actually be a little bit more effective in the front line to play more full blown for that ADC role. We did now, as we're going to shift gears quickly before Game 2 draft, play a little bit of a content game here with the Titan staff. It's a age-old game, or maybe I don't know, something that's been on the internet for a while. You said maybe even since middle school, Swifty. It's Kiss, Marry, Kill, League of Legends edition, and we got all of us here. Wookiee's actually involved in this one as well, so we see our producer Wookiee's choices. Let's start with you, Swifty. I mean, you and I, we picked the exact same stuff here, but let's hear your reasonings for why you chose these selections.
So, okay, we'll go over my reasonings. My Aphelios pick, or I'll just go Kiss, Marry, Kill, I guess. I guess that's the best way to go. And I think right down the line, I went Kiss Aphelios, Marry Ezreal, and Kill Hui. I want to start with the easiest one for me, which was Kill Hui. Frankly, I like to be an upbeat guy. I like to have fun. And I think Hui's entire sort of like character ideology is Hui's a sad boy, you know? And that it's not a turn on or a thing for me, you know? It's not my thing. So Hui, unfortunately, getting the kill there. And then it was a little tough for me between Aphelios and Ezreal. I think I went with Marry Ezreal because I like his voice lines. They make me laugh. I think he has an Indiana Jones reference in one of the voice lines, like, you belong in a museum, which I'm pretty sure is an Indiana Jones reference. And then Aphelios is handsome. I'd kiss Aphelios.
There you go. That's your reasoning. I mean, hey, we picked the exact same stuff.
We did.
Honestly,
I wonder if it's the same reason.
Well, for me, it was more so I don't have anything against Hui. It was really just for me. The first two, I was like, Ezreal, this guy's got the most personality. If I'm going the distance with this guy, he's going to be my husband, then hey, may as well have someone with some personality so that spark doesn't run out. And then, you know what? Aphelios is quiet. Aphelios doesn't say anything. It's just a loon talking for this guy. So maybe a kiss can bring out something in Aphelios. I would like to see the reaction. So that was kind of my idea there. And then Hui was kind of sitting there. I was like, Hui, man, you know, I just picked the other two, so I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to say it's time to die here. So unfortunately for Hui, he was my kill just because of process of elimination there. Is we actually seeing Wookiee in the chat give his answers here. So Ezreal's annoying, Wookiee says. So Wookiee just doesn't like Ezreal.
What I find funny, Wookiee finds annoying. Wookiee might find me annoying. Damn it.
Oh, well, you know, maybe something we need to talk about here in the post game. Maybe some bad blood arising.
We're unwrapping and unraveling sort of interpersonal relationships on the Titan Analyst desk here today.
Well, he's given us love in the chat at the very
least. I love you too, Wookiee.
So Wookiee, no bad blood here between the casters and the producer. We got that chemistry rolling. Those are our picks for Kiss, Marry, Kill. I hope everyone in the chat and everyone watching the stream enjoyed this little game that we played. And hopefully you're okay with the way that we've decided to align our picks there, as we're now into draft 4, game number 2 between Syndicate Coke and Bing Chillers.
We've
in the
swapped.
Titan Conqueror League, and they have swapped sides.
We have swapped sides. So curious to see if our kill pick is still a B1 pick. And Big Chillers might be taking it up here. I believe the Aphelios was also banned. I can't remember or recall from game 1 if Ezreal was ever banned. Ezreal as well?
Ezreal wasn't banned. Aphelios was
Ezreal wasn't banned. I'm like, that would be crazy if there was a 100% participation rate in our Kiss, Marry, Kill participants. I would also like to add, if it was based purely on gameplay, I believe I asked in the production chat if I could kill all 3.
Oh my goodness.
Just based on gameplay. But anyway, moving forward here into the draft, we are going to see the Hui banned, as well as the Aurora by Syndicate Coke, rather. As draft is staying relatively the same, however mirrored here, except for obviously the Hui, we're seeing Aphelios, Hui, and Aurora banned, these power picks. Curious to see what Bing Chillers does here. Obviously, like we said before, and you know, in pre-Kiss, Marry, Kill lobby, we'd really like to see Bing Chillers change up the draft in a way that is going to accelerate maybe Tonic on the ADC, and that pick is going to be Ashe. Interestingly enough, a little bit more of a utility pick. Ferris, what do you think here?
Well, Tonic plays a lot of the Ashe, and this is a comfort pick for him. They're going to run it back with the Jhin for Solo Mason. I think this is fine because Ashe will have a bit of a harder time punishing the Jhin, and Jhin himself likes to trade on the wave, and so he likes these aggressive matchups. And so I think it's a good one here for Solo Mason in the sense that he can just survive just like he did last game. Tonic now has more agency to make his own plays rather than waiting for his team to, let's see if they can tank for me and I can free hit. They're going with the whole Freljord composition, the Ashe into the Sejuani. Pakapal likely going to take that Wukong into the jungle as well because Pakapal has played it previously, and that's going to be the Rel lock-in as well. Rel, big pick here for the side of Nahor, actually likes that champion a lot. So heavy engage for the side of Big Chillers. Very heavy engage, very good front line, a little bit, I think, easier to execute than their previous team composition. I think their previous team composition, you know, hindsight is 2020, Ferris. You could argue it was flawed. You could argue it was strong. I think there were obvious avenues there to victory. It may have just been a higher skill ceiling team composition to execute. This, to me, reads a lot lower of a ceiling here or I guess higher of a floor. Not necessarily sure what the terminology there is, but I think it's an easier composition to execute at a base level. They have very good engage. Sejuani is like your staple sort of pick here for team composition and coordinated play for junglers. However, not necessarily the highest damage output yet. I'm curious to see what they pick B4 and B5. We are going to see the Leona come out here for Frozen Spuds. We have a Leona Jhin lane into a Rel Ashe lane. And then we're going to see, obviously, tops and mids banned out for both sides. And the Ahri, a great utility pick, great flex pick, or not flex pick, excuse me, a flexible sort of mid laner, has pick potential, has relatively good fighting, good burst. Curious to see how Bing Chillers responds. It's going to be Victor. He's going to take the Victor against the Ahri. His melee champions in the Yone and the Sylas that we saw last game were removed. So they wanted... I mean, Ahri does necessarily well into those champions, but they didn't want to play into that anyways. We didn't see Super Chase Gnar in game 1. Now we get Super Chase Gnar. So had some hard times there on the Jace in the first time around, now playing a champion that he's much more comfortable on. Oh my goodness, Espada! This is the pick of the series. You can see your reaction as well, Swifty. This is a Yasuo top. I think, yeah, it's going to be a Yasuo top to counter the Gnar. Okay, for Windwall. Interesting. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, am I a believer? I don't know. I don't know whether to believe or not. My heart has been broken 1,000 times, Ferris, by solo queue Yasuos. I had a Yasuo, anecdotally, a Yasuo go Grasp of the Undying, Heart Steel into Yuntal Arrow, whatever they are called, quick arrows. That sounds pretty good. It went 0-15 into a Cho'Gath. So my instinct tells me don't trust, but you know, if you're gonna bring it out in a do or die game, you gotta believe that Espada is probably cooking something here. Especially after that great performance on the Renekton out of Espada here in the top lane for game 1. But yeah, I like it. You know what? Back against the wall, if you're going to bring something out,
and you're going to be confident on it, really, this is possibly your last game to do so. I think it's a crazy pick, but you know, it just might work. It might be a crazy answer into this Gnar. They left it up for Super Chase to pick, which leads me to believe that maybe this is something they were brewing in the background the whole time.
I definitely agree. It must have been something they were prepping beforehand. They were quick to counter that on the R5 choice. And Super Chase, let's see how good your Gnar is and if you can pilot against this counter pick. It's a more intuitive, straight up front to back composition for Bing Chillers in this game. Last time around, they didn't have a lot of frontline to work with. It was really just full protect the Jinx. And this time around, they have options to play through. Now they have more of a hyper-scaling mid laner in the Victor to play off of. They have extra playmaking potential on Tonic, on Super Chase as well, on the Mega Gnar. Those Gnars into the wall can be massive for them. And the same can potentially be said here for the side of Syndicate Coke, except for they're more of the burst niche rather than DPS. Yasuo can deal a good sustained amount of damage, maybe even Wukong, but the Jhin, the Ahri, you want to layer the CC, you want to get the Last Breath Cyclone combo onto multiple people, kill someone off quickly. That's the avenue that Syndicate Coke is going for, and they have, in my opinion, the harder execution, but they are a very good team. So this could be their statement game to close out this last best of 3 in the regular season here in Titan Conqueror and secure themselves that first seed in Group A with a win here.
Absolutely. I'm curious to see if this works. Like you said, they are a team that has proven themselves to be very talented over the course of this league. This is a little bit harder of a team composition to execute. I think it's a little bit more of something you'd see out of more, you know, elite or professional sort of leagues and tournament play. But again, you know, you want to see people try and pull out stuff like this. I would like to make an amends to a statement before, or a sentiment during draft there. In my head, Bing Chillers and Syndicate Coke were flipped in draft, so I said back against the wall, bring out the Yasuo, thinking it was Bing Chillers for a second. But technically speaking, their back isn't against the wall quite yet. They are making playoffs regardless. If they want to make sure they lock first seed, they will need to win 2 out of the 3 games here. So maybe it's just, like you said, like kind of a flex here. You know what? Like, I'm confident we're gonna beat you guys. I'm pulling out the Yasuo top. Could be just a cooked up draft pick. I'm really curious to see how this Yasuo does. My eyes are going to be on it the whole game. Out of curiosity, what do you think is the reasoning here for Espada? Is it just the wind wall? Is it the dual potential here for the Yasuo into the Gnar?
I think it's, well, part of the fact of course, it is a very good matchup into Gnar. When you're mini, you really can't do much once Yasuo is wind wall. He can also close the gap very nicely with his dashes. I think it's also the synergy is the word I'm looking for with the Wukong Cyclone knockups, especially if it's onto multiple people. Combine that with Last Breath. You can have Solo Mason follow up from long range with Curtain Call. Can pretty much follow up any engage with the range of that ultimate ability. So this is the cook here. I mean, Yasuo, it's a champion that can work in his niche situations. You've even seen teams like G2 pull it out in the pro leagues from Broken Blade. So it's not something that I would have expected, but here it definitely could work. And those are the angles where I can see it works. Is Swifty, it's the grasp Yasuo. So we're 1/3, I guess, of the way towards that Heartsteel Yuntal Wild Arrows crazy build you saw in solo queue. And I'm surprised he ended up taking this rune choice into this ranged matchup.
Yeah, interesting into the ranged matchup for sure. It probably doesn't get nearly as much value if the Gnar can sort of poke it out, but you know, I guess Gnar half the time has to play melee. As we see the wind wall come out for the first time on the Yasuo, an ability that makes everyone sad in solo queue when your big ability is washed away. I'm realizing it's also actually probably a pretty good pick into the Sejuani and Ashe engage. Both of these teams have pick potential, right? It's something I wanted to highlight from draft. Leona Jhin, as well as Ahri Charm are really, really great pick tools when you're looking for like sort of pre-objective setup. But obviously on the same side, or I guess on the other side of the coin for Bing Chillers here, Ashe ultimate is an excellent pick tool, a cross-map pick tool, as well as Sejuani's ult. However, with the Yasuo, if played properly and set up properly, right, positioning is key there for the denial of those 2 ultimates, but Windwall does stop both. So maybe a little bit of a 5-head sort of Gigabrain play here out of the Yasuo, but as we're going to see...
Retail Row. That was Sovereign, I think, seen by Paul in the river, and so Retail Row is going to walk straight up to the bush and lose flash. That's not what you want from your mid laner necessarily. Definitely going to be not happy about the fact that you have to lose that. More vulnerable to Sovereign Sejuani in the next 5 minutes, and especially pre-6 when Spirit Rush not available for Retail Road to get away from those ganks. Has to be careful that he does not get punished and turned into a first blood for Bing Chillers. Solo Mason is going to get hit by the Shattering Strike, going to try and dodge away from the Crash Jump, but won't be successful in doing so. Frozen Spuds is the person that's in trouble here. Drops the Ignite onto Tonic, but doesn't have the damage to finish him off, and the Ashe will grab first blood of the game. Pakapal's here, but can't really get anything done now that the play is already over.
Unfortunate. A little bit difference in clear timing there means that Sovereign doesn't quite get there before it becomes a 3v2. And without a warded sort of Tri-Brush or River Brush, you see Frozen Spud go back for the E on Leona, but puts himself in a really unfortunate position in lane there for the Sejuani to just collapse. Bing Chillers is able to pick themselves up. First blood onto the Ashe, which is a great champion to have it on. And Syndicate, unfortunately, missing the timing there by a hair. However, you know, it's first blood. I've seen first bloods go a million different ways. Obviously, you know, not a death sentence for anyone here, but you know, just really well played. Great discipline on Sejuani to sort of hold that engage there when the Rel stun came out. As we're seeing Yasuo do some Yasuo
really
stuff.
aggressive.
Wind wall. God, I hate that ability.
Gonna block the boomerang toss. This is the lane state Swifty that Gnar is going to despise, because Espada
Sure.
can just do this. Dash right into the wave, trade your HP. Now, fortunately, it's bouncing back, so he will be able to catch it underneath the tower. We'll see what Pakapal does. Maybe they looked for a dive angle. Maybe not. They're pre-6. I mean, Espada is now level 6, but Pakapal is still level 4, is waiting for that Cyclone to come online. But that is where the Yasuo really finds value here. And that is going to be a power spot for Espada inside of this lane. The neutral objectives are spawning. Grubs are alive here. I would expect Grubs to be played for, especially considering Espada has this priority in the lane for Syndicate Coke.
Absolutely. It's easier to play around Yasuo not having a mega timer, right? Particularly when this Yasuo is in a better lane state. We see both junglers moving up. It looks like possibly a play might be made, but I don't think Super Chase is necessarily in the greatest of spots here to do anything about it. Hasn't backed yet. Is still sitting on just a Doran's shield, as we're going to see Pakapal and Espada start these grubs up. They know that they have priority. I think that's all she wrote for Sovereign. Understands the situation. Gnar has to take him back. Isn't going to really be able to contest here. They also don't really have mid priority, as Rel is the one holding the way from the Ahri in mid lane.
He's going to walk up, though. He has to be careful.
Done. However, we don't have Leona answer here, and Jhin is still bot lane, so they're going to get walked off. It's going to be 2 grubs for 1. Still in the favor of Syndicate. Great discipline there to back off, knowing that you don't actually have all your team members here yet. But, you know, great job from Sovereign there. Understanding that the initial play was not there, that Gnar was going to have to TP back to lane. But then, you know, great job saying, you know what, they didn't send up people, and they might be a little bit out of position here if they want to take all 3. So we're going to see a 2 grubs for 1 trade for the state of Syndicate here. Yep.
Still potential Void Mites for Syndicate Coke, even for the side of Bing Chillers as well. You need 4 to get that break point. That puts all the more emphasis on this next trio of grubs. Now the Drake, Solo Mason has priority over Zumi in the bot lane. Pakapal's here on the Scuttle Crab with Frozen Spuds as well, playing bodyguard around these entrances. And I think this should, again, it is priority for Syndicate Coke. They have control. They're going to start it up now. They have level 6 on Pakapal's Wukong, level 6 hit for Sovereign as well. Glacial Prison and Cyclone available for both. But Vision Control, I'm not sure. Again, it might be another late contest, but this should be first Hextech Drake going over to Syndicate Coke.
Yeah, backs are coming out a little bit awkward timing for Bing Chiller's bot lane and mid lane, both unsynced and sort of late. They didn't have mid lane or bot lane priority. Syndicate Coke doing a great job there of sort of putting Bing Chillers in a position where they don't have the option to contest. Like you said, we're going to see Hextech Drake come out for the side of Syndicate, doing a great job again, showing that they're a team that understands macro play. You know, they're keeping pace, keeping tempo, and I think that's going to be a key for victory here for them. If they want to make this a 2-0 series, I think they need to lean into that strength and maybe that slight edge that they have over Bing Chillers in these macro decision plays, in understanding how tempo works and how to put your foot on the pedal when it's most needed. It's something that they did rather flawlessly in the second half of game 1, as we're seeing Espada, take a turret shot, but really doing work here up in the top lane. I wish I had a spot on my solo queue game, because that Yasuo didn't look like this one. We all do.
We all want that Yasuo at 9 minutes who doesn't have a death and they're calling it. But hold on, I'm going to acknowledge the caster curse here before it happens. Sovereign's in the area. That way it prevents it from going through. That's the new tech that I'm testing out here. So I stop ruining players' games with my early predictions. And I absolutely agree with your analysis here. A fast-paced game for Syndicate Co. is one that they're going to like better. They also have a lot of snap engage here with Wukong, with Spirit Rush Charm from Retail Rose Ari to follow up, and Leona, who's going to jump into these fights too. They can kill a target very quickly, force a 5 versus 4 fight to then translate into big advantages. And that is how they fought in the previous game as well, which brought them success. So something that they're used to doing, playing it slow, waiting for that right moment, and then striking when they have the opportunity here. The Sovereign really wants this kill on Espada. Super Chase is trying his very best to bait this one, but now he's going to show on the map. Narmak, though, should be able to grab this one here, flashed away before the Permafrost can come through, but the Glacial Prison will lock him down. Super Chase will grab that second kill of the game for Bing Chillers.
Great discipline there on playing around Vision for Sovereign. I don't know if that last minion, as we're going to see Pakapal just try and catch the wave. I'm not sure if Espada had spotted Sovereign or not. It almost looked like the minion was in range. I'm not entirely sure if that is the case. We saw Sovereign on Sejuani do a little bit of a backstep and maybe second guess, was I seen there? As we're seeing a little bit of a trade come out here from Retail Row and Zumi.
Zumi's loving this trade. Absolutely loving it. Half HP on Retail Row. He's going to be backing that one off. The Victor's been having a pretty decent time in this lane as well. Scaling pick for Zumi, a lot different than the Silas, who is the melee champion. Now can sit back, sit behind your Sejuani, sit behind your Gnar and deal damage from afar. And the grub game goes to Bing Chillers. They should be able to grab these next two, Swifty, and secure their Void Mites. So now they have that extra bit, or actually they had it last game too. They had the whole 6 last time. So let's see if they can replicate or make anything new for them in game number 2. Is Spada, can you find the Miracle Steel? You can't. Will Sovereign be in trouble? Arctic Assault over the wall should be okay.
Should be okay. Gets out there. Yes, like you said, 4 grubs. The Void Mites will be spawning on these towers. Excellent on champions like Gnar, who have just like really, really good split pushing potential. Gnar's a champ where, you know, it can be utilized to great effect when on the side lane with a teleport up, can manage that mega form and then TP to a fight with mega up, or coming up rather. So yes, I'm curious to see if they use it to a little bit more effect in this last game. It wasn't something that really came into play here. Another wind wall. You don't get to play the game, Gnar. What was I saying? You know, we didn't really see it come to sort of fruition and really make that much of an impact in game 1 for Bing Chillers. Looking to see if they can use it a little bit more effectively this game. Syndicate Coke will have that DOT on towers here, and it is not a 6 grub, it is just a 4 grub difference here. But, you know, in teams where it can be utilized effectively, it is a very good tool to have. We're going to have Dragon spawning up in a minute, as both teams, I'm assuming, are going to be sort of leaning toward the side of the map. We see Wukong pathing towards the bot side. We see Sejuani pathing towards the bot side. Rel is already trying to set up Vision. If I'm Sejuani, I get off the Raptors here, and I try to maintain as much control as possible. We'll see if that happens as
Pakapal is in trouble. Has to flash away. That is huge for the side of Bing Chillers. That Flash Cyclone, that's a huge tool that they can use to win this fight that now they don't have access to. It's Teleport, Unleash Teleport that is coming off for Espada, but I'm not sure if Syndicate Co. really want this play now that that has happened. They've got the first Drake, so they don't have to worry about 2 Drakes this early on. I think that's going to be the call here, although they're trying to make a play on Detonic. The Solar Flare is going to force out the cleanse. It's actually the Deadly Flourish that gets the cleanse. So maybe now with that off, they did use Leona ultimate though. So there's always trade-offs. And it's interesting to see if the teams now think, okay, well, we use these ultimates, we use these summoner spells. Do we still have what we need to be able to contest in this play. It still seems like both teams want to go for that. Nahor is going to be the target here. In goes Frozen Spuds, but this is 1 versus 3 right now. Tonic is going to free hit in the backside, but here comes Paul with the Cyclone, forces away Tonic, and the Enchanted Crystal Arrow will buy him some space. Solar Mason's going to be the next target. Nahor trying to get towards him, but Frozen Spuds is there for the peel. Syndicate Coke have found their fight. It's 2 kills for them. Retail Row wants to continue the play. The Curtain Call will come through and take down Tonic. Zumi flashes outside of it, and out of mana is the Ahri, so no pursuit can be found, but 3 kills for Syndicate Coke, and they're right back in control.
Like you said, snap fights are working in the favor of Syndicate Coke this game. I really like the pressure that they were able to put on Bing Chiller's bot lane in response to the flash being blown in the river for Wukong. They're able to get the cleanse out. They're able to get priority in the lane. So we're getting a little bit of diciness.
This is close. Oh my goodness. Was that a little emote from Super Chase too? Oh my goodness. He's emoting on him. Gets the Drake, the Syndicate Coke, but that was the disrespect from Espada on the Gnar into the wall.
Yep, working his way up on that Yasuo to the O10 power spike, the feared, the dreaded O10. Maybe there was a little bit of a caster curse there, but we're going to see Bing Chillers now pick up the tempo and now play a little bit to the advantage in the top side here. They're going to look for this Rift Herald. Good play by them. Bringing it back to the previous play, that pre-dragon fight, I really like, again, Syndicate's bot lane applying pressure to counteract and to sort of make a trade play of abilities or summoner cooldowns on the Ashe. It buys them the right space, and it buys them an opening to make a snap engage. They were sort of able to retake priority around the dragon objective in the river off of that play. They catch Bing Chillers rotating behind the dragon pit to a possible bot side play in response to that engage happening on Tonic's Ashe, and it sort of catches them out of position. And at this point in the game, Bing Chillers doesn't necessarily have these big item spikes yet. Ashe doesn't deal a lot of damage, even with, I don't believe Kraken was finished at this point. I might be mistaken there, but even with just components of the Kraken and a Berserker Greaves, Ashe is almost more of a utility ADC at this point in the game, and Victor sort of needs these items to come online, really, to have this, you know, sort of late game control mage damage, and it's just not really there yet. And like we said, with the pick potential from Syndicate is just really strong here. Tonic might be in a bad position. No
Solar
cleanse.
Flare lands, Zenith Blade connects as well, but here is Sovereign to try and save his ADC, but the damage from Solar Mason is too much. The Yomu's Ghost Blade will cut him down, and that will be the second death of the game here for the Bing Chillers. AD carry as Nahor has to get out with the crash down. This will be mid-control and denial of this experience now against Tonic. Mizumi might teleport to catch this wave, but actually he canceled his back on the bot side, so it's going to have to be Nahor to try and hold that wave for him, as Zumi's back is canceled down here, so he has to continue to hold against Retail Row. Your point, Swifty, was perfect. They're turning up the heat. They are putting their foot on the gas pedal. They realize the scaling potential is immense once again for Bing Chillers, so they are going to start to take control a little bit earlier than they did last game too, which is going to bode well for them if they have the same type of result and same type of way the game ended up playing out as last time.
Sure, they really found their groove a little bit later, like you said, in game one. But once they found that groove, they really understood game tempo. And having they're still in the bush.
Oh, that's a charm that went very wide here. Half HP on the Victor. The damage might still just be good from Retail Row, but that's the stun.
CC.
That's the Chaos Storm. The Ignite, though, from Frozen Spuds will lock it down. Surely the trade comes through for Sovereign. Retail Row's not going to get that last Spirit Rush off, and Sovereign will finish that one off 1-for-1 here, still with Rift Herald in hand. Might run into Pack-a-Paul, who's going to go stealth, but Sovereign snuffs that one out before it's too late.
Oof. That was a close play. I almost think that if that it was the charm that missed, right? I saw the REQ. If the charm hits there, that might be a different story for Bing Chillers. However, good job off the back of that. So much CC coming out with the I believe it's called Gravity Field.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that out of Victor. Forgive me for being for not playing.
Auto force the flash away. Super Chase wants this one versus one. Gnar into the wall, connects. The CC chain is here, but Pack-a-Paul is here to support his top laner as well. There's the combination we've been looking for all game long. Cyclone, last breath, flash to follow from Pack-a-Paul. He gets the second knockup down, but the flourish as well from Solo Mason, and they knock down the one member for Bing Chillers who was so strong in this game, and now they want to defend their tier 1 and mid as well, just using the curtain call to force away the rest of BCS.
great play there. We get to see the combo come off. Yasuo doesn't necessarily have the items for that damage to be there, quite yet, but excellently played. Deadly Flourish coming across the map for that CC lockdown. I'm realizing now that both of these teams have, sort of excellent lockdown ability. Like Sejuani, Ashe, Rel, Victor, obviously, even the Gnar have excellent lockdown. However, on the other side of the coin, Syndicate Gaming, if Charm is landed, every piece of Leona CC is landed. If you have a Deadly Flourish Jhin, ultimate coming out of the Wukong, and even Yasuo's ultimate does like stall airborne slightly. There's a lot of tools here. Tower's gonna go down.
Retail Row just forced the Spear Rush.
Yeah. However, Malignance is completed, Varus, for this RA, so that Spirit Rush cooldown, expending it feels not as bad here. Once that Malignance is activated, it's a really potent item on RE. Quite frustrating if you're the enemy team. But I think both teams have the tools here, and we've seen them use them for CC Lockdown to sort of turn fights here. On one side, Bing Chillers really likes, I think, team fight, their crowd control in team fights, and Syndicate really likes it for picks, and we're seeing them both utilized here as Syndicate's going to start this Dragon up. Excuse me, not Syndicate.
They want this Drake, does both teams. It is Syndicate Coke toying with the idea of a contest right now. The Dragon's getting low, though. It's going to be Sovereign to pick this one up. Let's see how the fight goes in turn. That's a Cyclone on 2. Tonic forced to cleanse away from the Solar Flare, but the Zen Blade will connect from Frozen Spuds. Can they find the damage to knock down this ADC here from Bing Chillers? They do not quite have enough in the tank. Pack-a-Paul's trying to finish off the Victor. Is going to be able to get that. It's going to be a 1-for-1 so far, but Super Chase is low, trying to run away. Now he's going to turn into the Mini-Gnar, but the curtain call here from Solo Mason is everything that Bing Chillers need. He's got a triple, and there's still 2 people alive for Syndicate Coke. Or sorry, for Bing Chillers. That is my mistake, as Nahor will be the next person to fall. Give a spot of the kill to share the wealth. Syndicate Coke grab their 10th kill of the game, and they're looking to take control once again.
Really, really big play there for Syndicate. That's a huge swing in tempo for them. That's 4 down. They don't pick up the Dragon, however, they'll take that every day of the week. They're going to get this bot lane turret. They get a lot of gold into the pocket of a very potent champion. We saw Solo Mason do very, very well. We spoke a lot about Tonic's Jinx. However, I'd like to call it right back to Solo Mason's Jhin from the previous game. There's a reason it is picked twice in a row here for Syndicate Coke. Also was a deathless champ, but with more kill participation, not percentage-wise, but absolute-wise. I believe it was 605 at the point that Jinx was 701 later in that game. Solo Mason's already proved that they can play this Jhin very, very effectively, and now is sitting on a Collector, Youmuu's, and components for what I can only imagine is a Mortal Reminder. Absolutely going to be nasty moving into these fights. Pick potential now off the charts, but as well, when you have this much gold advantage on the enemy ADC, even if you're more of a bursty champ, you're probably going to be outputting more damage over the course of a longer fight than this Jinx will. Excuse me, not the Jinx, the Ashe will. Not necessarily the ideal position you want to be in if you're Tonic. However, there's always avenues back into these games. Like we said, this is a more traditional team fighty comp. They have some scaling on their side with the Jhin, the Gnar. Ultimate potential still absolutely potent for this team. We'll see how they adjust their play moving into these sort of these macro pre-objective setups, and how they're going to adjust it such that they have a little bit of an easier time moving into these further fights, Ferris.
It has to be that pick potential for Bing Chillers. They need an Ashe Arrow onto a priority target. Solo Mason has cleanse, so it's tough. They need to layer their CC. They have Glacial Prison. They have Rel to work with. They have to get someone down before this happens to them, where the curtain call rolls through and deals massive damage to Tonic. The 4th shot will miss. Pack-a-Paul forced to retreat. Super Chase dealing good damage in the Mini-Gnar form, kiting away, getting close to that Mega Charm will land, though, and he's going to get chunked down very low. The Deadly Flourish will land. Stunned up is a spotted, but has the wind wall there to protect him. Sovereign now going to retreat with the rest of his team, and neither side will field a loss here in this fight.
Well, it was a close one. Great fancy footwork there from Tonic. Did not have to cleanse up, did not have flash up, I believe. So just has to sort of wiggle back and forth to get out of that curtain call shot, which more likely than not would have been a death sentence, even if it wasn't the final shot. We're starting to see, however, Zumi's damage on the Victor coming out from the ultimate is starting to come online. We have a needlessly large rod. We're working into Lichbane here, an absolutely nasty item on Victor. There it is. It's picked up. So we have Luden's Tempest. We have Lichbane completed on the Victor. These items are starting to roll through. And Victor, as the game goes on, is going to be a much nastier damage output threat than the Ahri. Like we said, and like we have been saying, the Ahri's pick potential is fantastic. But if they don't get these kills off when they pull the trigger, we're going to see a nasty Victor put down some nasty damage. So really good job from them to sort of buy themselves time there. No kills for either team across the board. And we're going what looks like to be back to sort of square one here. We've got Baron on the table, Dragon spawning in a minute, Ferris. Do you think we're looking at Syndicate trying to grab third Drake and put this to Soul Point?
Oh, absolutely. Now is the time to take every single fight that you can take. You're getting very close to Solo Mason 3 items. He's recalling right now. If he finishes Mortal Reminder here, this gen, oh my goodness. Online as online can be. Here he goes. Not quite. And actually going to go into the LDR instead with the Noon Quiver purchase. But nonetheless, Jin very strong. They're ahead. They're up about 3,000 gold. They want it to be even more. They want to look for Baron. You talked about the Victor power here, Swifty. That's coming if you don't finish this off soon for Syndicate Coke. So the Dragons are a perfect way to rope Bing Chillers into a fight that they don't want. There's the Cyclone. There's the last breath. That might just be the nail in the coffin here for the side of Bing Chillers, but they're actually going to survive pretty well. They're actually going to get 2 kills in the fight. They are peeling back. They are getting the fight that they want. They're over chasing underneath the tower, though. Deadly Flourish will actually make this fight not so bad for Syndicate Coke. Solo Mason once again being the hero for this team. It's left alive on this Jin, but that should mean potentially Drake here for the Bing Chiller side. Solo Mason has to be careful. He's going to run away from this one. Tier 1 tower will be claimed by BCS.
Great fight from BCS there. I don't think the Yasuo's damage is quite online enough yet. We've got a Blade of the Ruin King and a Stride Breaker, which aren't necessarily like super team fight spiky items. Excellent engage from Pakapal with the W into that ultimate. And Retail Row in the wrong place!
Solo Mason! Or no, it's actually Retail Row. I was reaching for my water has been picked off right outside the Drake pit now here, Swifty. So that means it's even easier on these respawns if they want to play for this dragon. And they should be able to pick this one up.
Yep. Looks like Nahor is going to stop that recall timer. Understands that they have the opportunity to put themselves or put their first dragon on the board here. It's a little bit awkward with Tonic being quite so low. Death timers are not crazy long. We have the ult respawning in about 15 seconds with TP up, and Nahor is going to get a little bit punched, but nothing too crazy. Like we said earlier, this is it's sort of slow team fight for the side of Bing Chillers versus kind of snappy, quick tempo gameplay engages for Syndicate. They need to get these picks off. When they don't happen, when those quick engages don't turn out your way, these fights can very easily go towards the side of Bing Chillers, and we see that happen here. However, Syndicate's going to start this dragon up. We're going to see if Bing Chillers is going to get this engage off. It's getting very low.
Sovereign's in the pit, but it's actually Solo Mason of all people to grab this one. And now the jungler from Bing Chillers is isolated from the rest of the team. Pakapal is going to go over the wall here, but the curtain call from Solo Mason as he hits a legendary kill streak is enough to bring down the lady on a boar. And with the jungler dead, you know what that means. At least I would think it's Baron time for Syndicate Coke.
A little bit disjointed there on the backs. We saw Tonic sort of stepping back and forth. Am I backing? Are we starting this? Are death timers long enough? They stalled themselves a little bit long, and they don't quite get the positioning that they need there. So we're going to see Super Chase with
Ignore into the wall with the crash down Magnet Storm. Tonic, a lot of his damage was eaten up by the wind wall, but the first death of the series for Solo Mason will give Tonic the 1,000 gold bounty. The next kill for Super Chase. Frozen Spuds is next on the menu. Pakapal might just be up next. Cyclone to buy himself some space, but Super Chase is on that chase. He has the damage. This Gnar is strong. The mini not quite able to finish it off with the last auto attack, but an overextension from Syndicate Coke, and they pay for it.
This game is dead even, Ferris. Back and forth on these respawns. Bing Chillers picks up a great fight in the mid lane. They don't somehow get the dragon because maybe it's nerves, maybe it's just disjointed communications. They get walked off of it. Sejuani does not get the steal. However, they turn it right back around Super Chase with an excellent Gnar ultimate to knock 3 back into the tower. Your win wall isn't stopping a Gnar punching you into a wall, Mr. Yasuo. So they're able to pick up a great fight there, and the gold's like basically dead even. It was almost dead even for a second there. Off those death timers, Bing Chillers is going to be able to put themselves up a little over 1,000 gold. They are, however, down 2 dragons. It is soul point for Syndicate off the backside rather of that dragon play. But this game feels like it's in anyone's hands, Ferris. We've got some key components coming online for both teams. A very huge Jhin, Vixer damage coming to fruition here. We're gonna see Seeker's Arm Guard picks up Dark Seal. Big boy plays. Curious to hear what you have to say about what the avenue for success is. What does either team have to do to come out on top in a game state like this?
It has to just be elimination of BCS members right off the bat. From the Cyclone that you hit, the last breath that follows from Espada, people have to drop on BCS's side. If they don't, especially if Tonic is free, then that leads into Bing Chillers having what they need to carry a fight. Even when Super Chase is in Mininar form, you saw what he could do to Pakapal when he didn't have anything to fight back with, when he didn't have any follow-up with him, and he was getting kited out by that Mininar. Those are the keys to success for both teams, but playing around this vision will be ever more important for Syndicate Coke's side, as they are the ones with that nice snap engages. Espada had the counter pick of the Yasuo, the supposed counter pick that we talked about, but here in the current game state is not doing so hot in this side lane, which is proving to be valuable here to relieve a lot of the map pressure for Bing Chillers.
Absolutely. I wanted to believe. I'm starting to not believe, but I'll still keep hope. Not quite at the O10 power spike that we've been talking about this game. However, let's not forget this is a champion that later in the game, there's a reason the O10 power spike's a meme, right? This champion can be absolutely disgusting later in the game with high burst and high just consistent DPS in fights. And with a Wukong and Pakapal's Wukong, who's been pulling off the engages rather well, and maybe the damage might not be there with the follow-up. With that combination of ultimates, there's always the threat potential. We've seen Frozen Spud, Solo Mason, and Retail Row pull off these charms and these roots to get these pick plays. They just haven't quite panned out in the right way here. We're going to see Spuds and Pakapal try and push them off the Baron successfully, actually. 4 are going to back off here, and they're going to buy a little bit more time. But like we said, this is a super even game still. The only thing really separating these two teams at this point is the Dragons, Ferris. It is soul point for Syndicate, which, again, it's a huge sort of bargaining chip when you're sort of setting up plays and applying macro game pressure. If you have soul sitting in your pocket, or soul potential, rather, sitting in your pocket, especially on an Infernal Soul, I'll add, which adds to a very bursty pick-based composition quite nicely. Bing Chillers is sort of innately going to be on the back foot here when sort of contesting objectives, picking sides to play towards. So they have to back off the Baron. They're going to respond by trying to maintain mid lane prio. They're going to respond by trying to walk into this river here to make sure that Syndicate Coke cannot pick up that soul for themselves.
It comes down to this right now. This could be everything that Syndicate Coke need to pull off the play that they need to win the game right now. The same thing can be said for Bing Chillers. They can deny this. They can get the Baron off this. They found their way onto Zumi, but Pakapal does not want to commit the Cyclone just yet. Deadly Flourish going to go wide. Both teams, they're playing far away from the Drake right now. They're not hanging around the pit. They're sitting in mid lane, putting heavy emphasis on making sure that that wave gets pushed in. Therefore, they don't get punished too heavily if they decide to fully commit to this Drake. I have to think to myself that Sovereign or someone else at any given moment is going to pull the trigger on this play, but for the moment, these teams remain at the stalemate. But here comes Pakapal! That's the Cyclone Mass Breath onto 4 people. The current call is committed, but the damage is not there. It is Bing Chillers that say, what engage do you have? You cannot stop us from bringing this to a game number 3. Solo Mason doesn't have enough in the tank to carry the squad. He's the only one remaining. It collapses all in front of them. Everything they built in this one has crumbled before them, and that might just be the end of this game number 2.
Sovereign already tanking up that tower. They're going to start this final push here. They're looking to take it. I don't see any reason why they can't. These death timers at 32 minutes in the game, almost 33, are going to be long enough that they're going to look to close this game out here and bring us to a game 3, like you said, Ferris. Great look there by Pakapal. However, you got to wonder if the Wukong being the primary sort of tool to engage there. If there might be a little bit more minutia there in how this team comp needs to be executed, as we see Bing Chiller's going to bring us to their victory screen, pushing us to game 3. Something in my head clicked there at the end of game 2, Ferris. Part of me wondering, as you said when calling that team fight excellently, may I add, the curtain call coming out didn't quite have the damage, and you got to wonder if maybe curtain call coming out prior to the actual Wukong W ultimate might have given themselves a little bit of more time and better chances there. It seemed almost as if Solar Mason was putting out more damage when he was auto-attacking than with that curtain call. There were no low health targets. Not a lot of damage existed elsewhere on the team to take those tankier members, Sejuani, Rel, Gnar, down to a position where curtain call's damage is most effective. So we see them pull the trigger, and it's great to see them pull the trigger, but again, like we said from the very beginning, it's a little bit higher of a skill ceiling team to execute, and they just don't get all the cards in their hands to pull that one off there, and we're going to game 3 here.
We absolutely are. The curtain call coming through in the last fight, I felt that Solar Mason had enough peel and enough people in front of him to just hit normally. Then when you lose that luxury of being able to auto-attack, if the curtain call comes through, then it can be better for Syndicate Coke. But nonetheless, there just wasn't enough DPS to eat through the front line that Bing Chillers had drafted for themselves. The Gnar for Super Chase. They thought they had the answer into it. They banned it in game number 1. He ended up playing like an absolute monster and having a statement game after a game in game number 1 that we criticized a little bit here on the broadcast desk. So really nice there from Super Chase to be that big X factor for his team, keeping their playoff hopes alive. I will add, with the win here, Bing Chillers will definitely be able to get themselves into that 4th seed in Group A. It now comes down to a best of 1 between these two. Syndicate Coke want that 1st seed. Bing Chillers want that playoff spot. It will come down to one more game of League of Legends to decide that, and we will bring that to you after this very short intermission. So, chat, everyone watching, do not go anywhere. We got one more banger on the way to see the conclusion of this trilogy between these two.
Stranded in the open, dried out tears of sorrow, lacking all emotion, staring down the barrel, waiting for the final gates to open to a new tomorrow, moving with the motion, want, just come. Don't leave me again, leave me again. If you want, just come. If you want, just come. Don't leave me again, leave me again. to protect your soul.
There is a lot riding on this final game between Syndicate Coke and Bing Chiller's Rocky Road here in the Titan Esports Conqueror League. Group A, we're 1-1, one game at peace between these teams with that loss in game number 2. Thanks to chat. I think it's TradBoom65. Shout out to you giving us the info.
Great job.
Letting us know Syndicate Coke is now locked for second seed with that loss. And for Bing Chillers, they need a win here to make playoffs. If they don't, their spot will be taken by Odyssey Cronus, who did 2-0 in their matchup tonight. So honestly, if there's any Odyssey Cronus players in the chat right now, I'm sure there is. They want to see if they're going to make playoffs or not. Welcome, and I hope you don't have too many nerves as you watch this game go down here. I'm still Ferris. This is still Swifty, and man, we've got a banger on the way. I have to sort of assume.
Absolutely a banger, and we did a little bit of spot checking in between, in between games here while off air, and yeah, it looks like Tilt Esports has locked first seed with that loss by Syndicate Coke. Syndicate Coke is locked for second seed. There is no scenario in which Conduit Esports takes second. Conduit Esports, by the same logic, has locked third seed, and this is one game. One game to take it home. Bing Chiller's entire season is on the line. They've brought themselves here. They came back with an excellently executed game after losing game 1 in game 2. And now it's Syndicate sort of on the back foot, but really only playing spoiler. So in an interesting series here, Syndicate is here to make a statement more so than anything. They have the opportunity to not drop this game, to have a tied overall record with Tilt Esports, even though they will be the second seed here. But, you never want to lose your last game, your last series, going into playoffs. So while it may not change the standings for Syndicate Coke here, it is certainly a make-a-statement game, as we are going to flip back sides. Syndicate is going back to blue. Seems like blue side is the favorite side for both of these teams here. Both teams using blue side to great effect here, and we're seeing our kill pick be won, Ferris.
Oh my goodness, Retail Row taking that blasted way into the mid lane. They like it on blue side, and it was banned away in game number 2 in 100% win rate blue side, like you did mention there. Swifty, they're going to run back. The Ash is Bing Chillers. I think this makes perfect sense. Absolutely run with this. You could just do the salty run back. It worked. You need this win. Play the champs that brought you success. So that's the blind, or actually it's not going to be the blind Victor. It's going to be the blind Ash here for Tonic. What will the response be from Solo Base? I'm just going to go with the Jhin. I was going to say Swifty, maybe something else that can have a bit more carry potential, more DPS, but they just want to stick to their guns, and they're going to run back the same type of draft that they've been going.
Ooh, we see Graves come out. A little bit more of an aggro pick here, a little bit more of a carry jungler come out. Sort of the antithesis to I believe it was no, it wasn't game 1. That was Ivern. Who did we have game 1? We had Lilia.
Right.
So, but similar sort of damage output potential in the late game here, going back to what works, I guess, for Syndicate Coke. But like we said, Retail Row sticking with that Hui. Hui got a little bit bullied early in game one. Retail Row had a few more deaths than they probably would have liked, but Hui is one of those picks that come later in the game. The damage from Retail Row was just disgusting. And not Pack-a-Ball, excuse me, Solo Mason, sticking with the Jhin, has performed excellently on it, even in the last game, even in their loss. And we're seeing the Gnar come out. We're seeing the Victor come out. They're saying if it ain't broke, do not fix it. Curious to see what the support is here. They have the opportunity to stick with the Rel.
I think they do it too.
Been played by Nahor all 3 games. I don't see an issue with it. I think Nahor has performed very well on it. And they might just get the tools that they need to keep going, and they're going with the Amumu. This is actually interestingly enough, this is a flex pick. Yeah. This is a flex pick. Amumu can be played in the support still very effectively. It was a little more popular, I think, a handful of patches ago, or maybe more than a handful of patches ago earlier in this season. However, it is still effective. And we're going to see in response to the Gnar, a Malphite. A Malphite. I believe off air we were talking about this as possibly a change up for I think Super Chase game 1 off the Jace, but it's going to use a little bit more of a safer sort of rock in the top lane as an antithesis to the Yasuo pick. We're going to see Rel come out. It worked.
It was so good for them. Yeah. The Malphite too is interesting. You normally picking Malphite into teams with a lot of armor, kind of like him and Rammus are the typical armor stoppers, but they also need engage. And you talk about it as well. They played the Yasuo, didn't work as well as they may have hoped. So let's try something new. Let's get something more reliable for Espada. That Unstoppable Force, it's going to be a reliable engage tool if especially flashes are down. It's the exact same blueprint here for Bing Chillers. They want to do the exact same thing they did in game number 2. Just swap out the Amumu for the Sejuani. Has more AoE engage, but still the same type of principle. Let's see what Pack-a-Paul can do, though, on the Graves. You had a big shout there, Swifty, when you saw the Graves locked in. And as a jungler yourself, you're probably excited or maybe scared to see something like this come out, as it can be a risky pick to go for, but this is Pack-a-Paul's wheelhouse. He loves these carry champions. The Lilia pulled out in game 1, went with now the Graves here too, so let's see if he can get some success and pull off the W and play spoiler in game 3.
Absolutely. It's one of those picks that you like to see it when a player who sort of gravitates more towards carry picks like the Graves when they do pick it up. However, I find myself being relatively critical of picks like this a lot. I think we exist in a jungle meta where carry junglers don't necessarily have as solid footing underneath them as, say, a Sejuani, as in a Amumu, as a Wukong, as a Jarvan, as a Xin Zhao, the staple sort of picks that you see in coordinated play, and there's a reason for that. It is a lot easier to not only execute, but to just find yourself being useful in that game. I found myself playing Jarvan games where I'm 0-6, and by the end of the game, you become an ult bot, but you still win the game. Because it's just such a potent pick. Graves can't do the same thing. There's a lot riding on your shoulders if you're Pack-a-Paul here. So while I can be critical of picks like this, I think there's huge downsides. I also think there's huge upsides. We're not playing, at Worlds level. These, people make mistakes. You can find picks. You can sort of solo carry games a little easier than you could if you were, say Canyon playing on the world stage. Not a shot at Canyon, by the way. But, I think there's more openings for this to go very, very well. But at the same side of the token, I think there's just as many ways this can go wrong. So very excited to see how Pack-a-Paul pilots this. I know it's much more in their wheelhouse. Curious to see if Pack-a-Paul is going to go for the safer sort of Graves, full clear, get your items, find those spikes, and then make plays. Or if we're going to see a little bit more early aggression. We saw Pack-a-Paul come out with some early dive plays on the Lilia that we questioned, which is a sort of weakness, right? When you're picking stuff like this, is it doesn't necessarily have the same CC lockdown. It has a smoke screen as your greatest CC. It doesn't necessarily have immediate damage walking into the game. It needs a little bit of time to come online. So I like Pack-a-Paul's aggression. I like the idea behind it. Not to talk too much about jungling. I could talk for hours about it. But I think it has to be played intelligently for it to be useful.
A passionate man about his jungle here. We'll see what Pack-a-Paul can get done in game number 3. A lot riding on this. We've been talking about it so much for both of these teams. The Jhin, the Hui, the Graves. Again, it's burst for Syndicate Coke. They need to make sure that their engagements and their synergy is on point, because last time around it really didn't feel like they had enough DPS to deal with the heavy front line that Bing Chillers drafted. We're seeing a very similar situation in this game, and for Big Chillers, I think they are so happy with what they got in this draft. It worked for them last time. They are feeling confident. They just got a rep on every single one of these champions that they're playing, except for the Amumu for Sovereign. But really, how many reps do you need on Amumu to get prepared? You hit the bandage toss, you press the R button, and you're ready to go. Tonic, get auto attack, and Zumi, get laser, and go full Arcane Victor mode in this game. That's what you're going to need if you want playoffs for Bing Chillers. Syndicate Coke looking to play spoiler. Hope everyone is ready for a banger of a matchup between these two teams, because that's exactly what we're getting here in the Titan Esports Conqueror League, and we are on to the Rift.
I would like to make an immediate comment about the jungle. Dark Harvest Graves. This is all or nothing out of Pack-a-Paw. This is not the safer fleet footwork play, which allows you to clear more healthily. It allows you to get a little bit of movement speed to speed that clear up. This is kill the enemy Graves. This is Dark Harvest is going to want to play aggressively as soon as these sort of mid-game skirmishes and sort of early into mid-game skirmishes happen, wants to get online with that added bit of damage. I think it's exciting. I think it's risky. It's what you want in a game that is going to decide the playoff standings for these teams here, or for at least one of them, whether or not they make it. So I'm really interested to see how this Graves pass. It's going to be something that I might be commenting on relatively frequently, but we're seeing these teams play relatively safe here in the beginning. I think both teams understand what's on the line. A statement game for Syndicate after having dropped first seed to the hands of Tilt Esports by losing to Bing Chillers in Game 2. And Bing Chillers can't lose this one. This is it. All or nothing. Whole season on the line. This is where you don't make mistakes.
This is where you got to dial it in. All of your games and practice as a team comes down to this. Get ready to have the game of your life, because there's also a lot of other people watching this game, specifically Odyssey Cronus, like I talked about a little bit earlier, who might be, maybe they're too scared to even take a look at what's happening here, and they just say, just let me know when the game is over what ends up happening, if we made playoffs or not. Now, Malphite Espada has the Arcane Comet in their runes. Doran's Ring start as well. This is to just punish that extra range that Super Chase has, and you can contend in the damage department. I think this will just be an easy transition into that standard tank Malphite. I don't know if we'll have any full AP. That would just be some crazy spicy stuff from Espada if we got that. But that should just be the standard strategy for Espada in the lane, is use the Comet to have an easier time early on, and then get to that point where you're super tanky later.
I will add that this is the man that picked Yasuo Game 2, so you never know. You never know. I would imagine, like we said, it is a tank Graves. Arcane Comet is pretty standard, even on tank Malphite. Another interesting thing I actually picked up on that I didn't immediately pick up on upon entering the game and commenting on the Graves Dark Harvest is it's actually an Amumu Aftershock rune pickup. You typically see, I believe, is the most common rune, Conqueror, believe it or not. Being picked up on Amumu. The ease of proccing it, being a melee champ and having your Despair and just being able to get a double bandage toss into an R, you're sitting in front of everyone and you can auto them for the applied magic resist debuff. It's just a really effective rune. Aftershock is a little bit safer. It does allow you to make sort of plays without fear of getting bursted early, which is possibly a fear when you're playing into Graves. However, I'll remind viewers, Graves doesn't really have immediate damage come online. Particularly, within the first 4 levels and few minutes, unless a kill comes through and a Sarita Dirk is picked up, I wouldn't necessarily worried about that, but it is, I guess you could argue, the safer choice.
As an excellent going to cancel the crash down. Nahor will have to flash now, and that will be a lot easier for Syndicate Coke to play through this bot side with that power taken off of Nahor's Rel. It's going to be Scuttle Crab trades for both of these junglers. Full clears came through for both as well. Retail Rogue going to be targeted here in the mid lane. Might have to burn a flash himself to get away from this bandage toss, but not going to use it here. Is going to try and tank up all the damage that they have to offer. Just not going to opt into using the flash. So first blood will go to Bing Chillers. It goes to the Rel. Maybe not as optimal as they'd like, but the play is still going to continue. Trade back here for Syndicate Coke. Solo Mason's going to get that one. We know how good his Jhin can be. Pack-a-Paw stunned up underneath the tower. Will take a bit of damage, but will walk off free. And Swifty, I have to favor Syndicate Coke in that exchange.
I do too, purely because of who the kill went on. There was a little bit more time bought for the Jhin to pick up a little bit more of that bottom wave. Tonic moved earlier for the rotate play, sacked a little bit of CS, but ultimately didn't get a kill. Also didn't get an assist. I'm noticed. Wait, did Tonic even? Oh, excuse me. That was I thought that was Ashe that died. That's my mistake. Forgive me, viewers. I thought that was Ashe that died, not the Amumu. But it's still actually sitting lower on CS. Maybe that's just the power of the Jhin into this matchup or Solo Mason's comfortability on it. But like you said, regardless, getting a kill on that Jhin feels better than getting a kill on the Rill at the end of the day. Jhin is now sitting 14 CS up, 1 kill up. Has not made that back yet to get first item, but you got to feel good if you're Syndicate in that play. Great response.
Absolutely. They get that kill into Solo Mason. Is up a very good amount of CS as well. Not really sure how this has ended up happening here. How is it that Solo Mason roamed to that play and it was Tonic that stayed back, yet there's still such a large discrepancy in the bot side? That is going to be massive for them. Interested to see what the first buy will be. It'll just be that serrated Dirk. Okay, that makes sense because Collector doesn't have BF Sword in its build path anymore. Serrated Dirk rolling through for the Graves. You talked about that, Swifty, having that extra bit of damage now. Let's see how good Syndicate Coke's neutral objective play can be in this one as Retail Row. We're going to look again, man. You're in trouble. You don't have the level 6 to compete. You're going to flash away from that bandage toss. I think that was the right choice. And he is feeling the pressure of the mid-jungle duo of being chillers early on.
Sort of pressure we've been seeing exerted most games here. Retail Row has had a lot of pressure put onto him on every pick in the mid lane for these games. Calling it back to game 1, right, on the Hui. I believe Retail was 1-4 or 1-5 moving sort of into these mid-game fights. Again, the Hui really did come online late. I will not knock Retail Row's play there. Played for the late game. As unfortunate or maybe rough as the early game could have been, but this is something we have seen Bing Chillers do. They have put a lot of pressure with Zumi and Sovereign's sort of coordination and synergy to blow these key items and key summoner spells off of Retail Row. This allows them to set up for this dragon uncontested. They're going to snag the first Drake of the game.
I think it's smart to play around that bot side. They didn't quite get the grubs, something they would have been happy to get as well. But if they can leverage this lead that Solo Mason has and use this to start stacking dragons early, that's another way to actually force Bing Chillers to fight earlier than they would anticipate. Although even though you have the scaling of the Victor, Ashe doesn't necessarily deal that crazy DPS. You can't forget about Sovereign on the Amumu, Curse of the Sad Mummy. Even if Super Chase is involved as well, that can be massive CC to win Bing Chillers a mid-game fight. But Nahor took a big chunk of damage down to half HP. Pack-a-Paul is here as well. Although with minimal CC on the Nautilus, I don't think they're going to end up going for this dive. Let's pay attention though to Zumi and Sovereign as they could be walking into an invade here from Syndicate Coke.
This is where Graves sort of excels, finds Prio in lanes and is able to rotate with key components like their mid laner, like their support, and is able to take stuff off of the Amumu. However,
bandage toss lands. This might be Curse of the Sad Mummy onto 2. Look at Pack-a-Paul. He evaporates before his team's eyes. What can the Curtain Call do here from Solo Mason? It's going to get a lot because Retail Row is going to follow up and finish that one off, but now it's a 2-for-1. Sovereign here wants to lead the charge. It's going to be the bandage toss tank by Frozen Spuds. Good on him to do that, and Solo Mason still able to find the kills when the rest of his team drops, putting the team on his back, and they desperately need him here.
That's serrated Dirk and first kill really showing its power there. The Jhin damage is clearly online, much more so than anyone else in the game. Bringing it back to the idea of invading there, like I said, it is a strategy that is very, very potent on Graves. He doesn't necessarily have the 1v1 potential or the ability to get grit stacks off for a little bit of tankiness. I mean, granted, grit stacks into an Amumu aren't nearly as potent as, say, an AD jungler. For viewers, it gives you armor when he E's and dashes. You know, but however, Graves sort of needs that help to get that CS advantage, to get that gold advantage, to get that item advantage. So I really like the play there. However, Retail Row didn't quite make the rotate over, and they're caught out of position in a 2v4 situation, and that's what happens when you're Graves with just a serrated Dirk, right? This is not a champion that can withstand damage, goes down, and now is 0-1-1. And sort of has to go back to the drawing board as Amumu can pick up the Chain Vest, already had the Bomby Cinder. and is going to be a little more effective at this point in the game than the Graves will be.
Retail Row in trouble once again. Sovereign looking for the bandage toss will miss number 1. Doesn't have Curse of the Sad Mummy, and even if they walk into range, Retail Row will walk that one out. It's honestly, now that I think about it more and more, Swifty, a tough game for Pack-a-Paw on Graves. There's just so much crowd control at their disposal for Bing Chillers. They have Crashdown Magnetstorm, Enchanted Crystal Arrow, Curse of the Sad Mummy, Gnar. They have everything they need to lock down a champion like Graves who can dish out big damage, but can't really take a ton if he gets CC'd up. Espada goes straight forward with the Unstoppable Force, but thankfully Super Chase can transform into that Mega Gnar and survive all right.
Yep, it's something that I didn't even necessarily think about at the beginning. You know, it's always hard. But as we're another Dredge
Big
Line.
Dredge Lion, Nahor going to get away with the crash down. Gonna lose 40% HP.
Yep, the story of this game, bot lane, a Dredge Line into Yrel getting tricked out. However, not a lot of kills being traded to the bot lane, more so on these sort of extended fights that are roaming into the river. Like we said before, the Omos has been completed for the Jhin. This is a relatively big item spike. However, bring it back to the conversation about Graves and playing into a lot of CC. There are still avenues, right, for this Graves to play. I think their ideology with sending these invades and sort of stalling this Amumu from becoming super tanky is the idea there. As
Burn Call comes through. They might just try and pull off the slow bleed dive. That's an excellent utilization of the depth charge, and they drop the aggro as well. Solo Mason's just going to be the one to tank. They get 2 kills. They get out unscathed. Pack-a-Paw takes a big tower shot. The grubs earned from Sovereign, now looking for the dive here onto Espada, but the bandage toss is just too short. We'll have a second one coming up here. Super Chase takes a tower shot, is getting out of that Mega Gnar, so won't have the Gnar to stun up the Malphite. Does not have Unstoppable Force, does Espada. It's so close up here. They want to find a trade play, but they just can't quite find it. Sovereign won't commit the Curse of the Sad Mummy. Espada has to be careful. He's playing with fire. Swifty, he's emoting on him. He knows what's up. He's saying, you can't touch this in game number 3.
Excellently played and unfortunately played from Sovereign. Just missing that. Both bandage tosses by a hair. I
think I can't. He should be okay, though. This is just annoying.
It's just annoying. This is true. Great play from Syndicate to get both kills on the bottom side. I like the idea of Sovereign making that trade play up on the top side. It ultimately just doesn't quite go their way. It's an unfortunate series of events. Syndicate now finds himself in a little bit of a gold lead. However, I want to make one quick comment. That was bone plating on Amumu, right? I believe I saw on the Malphite Q come out. I just want a PSA to all our viewers. Bone plating, and stuff like Grasp of the Undying. There it is. That's bone plating, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I think it's a little bit questionable on junglers. I think it's balanced around taking trades in lane. I think it's the reason why you shouldn't be taking Grasp on junglers. So an interesting set of rune pages, in my opinion, for the Amumu. If you're going to take bone plating, you're going to want to be fighting a lot early, particularly, especially with, it's maybe part of the reason the Aftershock is taken. But it definitely raises some questions for me about the rune selection here from Sovereign. You know what? Maybe there's just something that I don't know that Sovereign knows, but certainly interesting here, in my opinion, as the resident jungler on the table.
Giving us that knowledge, laying down what you think about the runes here. Sovereign might like it in a situation where he's going to be the first one to jump in, so that could potentially be the value there. But let's take a look at what this Chemtech Drake has to offer for both of these teams. It's 6 grubs for Bing Chillers. They got all the top side objectives thus far, so a lot of pressure on Syndicate Coke to actually grab these ones, but we can't forget about the lead that they possess down here. 3-0. 40 CS lead for Solo Mason's Jhin. This guy's played it all 3 games. He has done it all 3 games. Even in their loss in game number 2, this guy was going crazy. Everyone's gassing him up in the chat as well. He's having another pop-up performance, but also shout out to Frozen Spuds and Pack-a-Paw, who have been playing towards him very nicely. I worry though, Swifty, can he survive all that Bing Chillers have to offer for backline dive later on? Can he be their carry in this one? We'll have to wait and see as the later game continues to approach. But Retail Row again Sovereign is here to make your day miserable. Zumi trying to close the gap, but I think Sovereign's got this one in the bag. Gonna cry himself to death. And that will do it for the Hui, doing what me and you wanted to do on the broadcast there, Swifty.
Had to make up for the unfortunate bandage tosses in the top lane. Puts, puts his money where his mouth is, makes us pay for commenting on the missed bandage tosses. Excellently played. Again, finds Retail Row stepped out as we're going to see a little bit of fighting in an ultimate.
Chase wants the fight against Espada, but Paca-Paul is here to support his top side player. Super Chase will flash towards his jungle. Sovereign's going to go in. The bandage toss is short once again, but Zumi is here too. Espada probably just going to be the sacrificial lamb, but he gets the 1-for-1 with the unstoppable force. And that will be good here for Syndicate Coke to trade one back.
Excellent for them to trade one back. That is nearly a really unfortunate play. Excellently done from Super Chase to ult, or rather not to ult, to get the stun off, get the slow off, flash towards the Amumu. Great patience from Sovereign on the previous play to not blow the ultimate on Retail Row in that mid lane play. Just walks it out, picks up the kill with the W damage over time. I think there was an option for Amumu to go for an R flash play there and hit both Paca-Paul and Espada on the outset. Might have changed the course of the fight. However, it's not a combo that necessarily everyone's comfortable with. It's easy to screw up and be out of range. The range can be hard to gauge there, but it ends up being a 1-for-1 trade, and we see out of nowhere Super Chase able to make something out of seemingly nothing, and we're gonna see Syndicate pick up this Rift.
They're going to grab the Rift Herald, which means they might be able to utilize the Swifty as I'll hold that for the moment because Tonic has been caught out by Retail Row in the mid lane. It will force a teleport from Zumi to keep their tier 1 and mid alive. And they're looking for more. Dreadblind lands, Deadly Flourish will follow. Chaos Storm utilized here from Zumi to try and knock down Frozen Spuds. He's going to flash away, but open up the curtains. Here comes Solo Mason. The rest of the Bing Chillers team has to tank for their support. That almost hit from downtown. I honestly probably would have lost my voice if that hit there, Swifty. But once again, mid lane, Syndicate Coke, they're looking for big advantages in Game 3.
Yeah, wow. This Jhin is terrifying. I don't want to play against Solo Mason's Jhin here. Really being solo Jhin, putting the team on the back, the damage is just hard to compete with on the backside. By the way, Paca-Paul, you got to be careful because that could happen. Is able to have the dash up to get out of that play. Paca-Paul playing with fire on the edge of these fights, trying to find his way into a lot of these fights. But as you said, there's a lot of CC and a lot of peel for the side of Bing Chillers. He wasn't quite able to get in there. You could tell Paca-Paul was looking for that dash in for the ultimate to get the kill secure on Tonic on the backside of that fight. Wasn't really able to get in there. Rel stops too much. Victor has the ability to, throw down a well and stop you from moving, as well as just the Amumu stuns and ultimate. So can't quite get in there. However, is starting to come online. Has nearly a 50 gold lead on the Amumu. And this is what I was talking about before. Oh, as a Dredgeline forces out the flash from Tonic. That's a key summoner burnt. But going back to the Graves, this is what I was talking about, and this is sort of the position that Graves wants to be in, and it's off the back of the rest of the team finding really, really good priority. When you have priority off of really good plays in your top side, and when your Jhin is this far ahead, and your side lanes really, really can buy you time and space to get in there.
Oh my goodness, Retail Row's just walking into a whole world of hurt. All that electricity shocking you to near death. 30% HP. He's going to have to walk back to base with tail between his legs. Oh my goodness. Unstoppable force utilized from Espada to get away from that 1v1. Retail Row's been found again. Good fear to keep Nahor away, but Zumi's flashing forward. He's saying, "You're mine, my friend, but I will not be able to grab you, but Sovereign will." And he will flash forward for that kill. Let's see if he can get out of this one, though. I don't think we're going to be able to. The collapse is here. The kill should go over to Paca-Paul. And the Drake is about to come up too here, Swifty. And this is number 3 for Syndicate Coke.
Yeah, Syndicate playing with fire there, Retail. Sort of a tale as old as time here. Retail getting a lot of resources invested into them. Getting ulted from the Victor, I believe it was, as well as having to blow the flash, getting recollapsed on, dove, killed. But however, he bought enough time for this Graves. for this Nautilus to get down to the bot lane. Trade that kill back over. A key component in trading the Amumu here. They're doing a great job of just answering any missteps with more aggression, and they're at a point in the game where they're 4k gold up, and it's what they have to do. If you're a team playing with a composition built around high burst damage with a Hui, with the Graves, with a Jhin, you can't make mistakes to give a more team fighting classic composition room to come back into this game. They're going to have to capitalize on any mistake they do make, and they do it rather well there. They find a kill back, they find the dragon. This puts them at soul point, Ferris. They're in a really good spot.
They absolutely are. They fell short in game 2 at being able to capitalize on the lead that they had, and slowly Bing Chillers crept back and were able to get that win from underneath them. This time, set the clock, chat, 5 minutes until that soul potentially comes up for Syndicate Coke. This is where this game is going to break wide open. It's already broken open pretty far, but it might just happen right here because they're going to be on the chase, and the horse hit with the Spiraling Despair. They're going to commit the Unstoppable Force as well to take down the Bing Chillers support. They will be successful in their bout, but what does this mean on the map for them is the question.
They have the opportunity to get great prio around Baron. They're not quite pulling the trigger yet. They clearly want to push down mid lane. They have the opportunity to put a lot of pressure down on this mid lane turret. They can most likely take it here if they don't lose the wave to any wave clear. But they don't have all members there immediately, and they might not be able to get it here. Maybe a little bit of split decision making here, as we're going to see just a root come down on the Amumu. Maybe they didn't pull the trigger quite quick enough there. I think they have the opportunity to possibly either start the Baron or to hard force this mid-wave turret down. They don't quite get either off, but they have a second wave walking in, and they're going to try and put pressure here.
Careful though, because that's a huge enchanted crystal arrow from Tawny, and it's a curse of the Sad Mummy to follow it up. That's 2 people immediately dead. Both kills going to Zumi, now 5-0 on this Victor. Espada not able to react in time and join the fight. Swifty, this could mean Baron for Bing Chillers. They did not respect the engaged potential of them, and now they're on to the Baron, but Pack-a-Paul is alive. I don't know if they have what it takes to get in the pit right now and get towards it for a smite steal, but Pack-a-Paul is certainly going to try. Down to 5,000 HP now is the Baron. They don't really have vision of it. They can't get inside. He can try with the collateral damage, but he's stunned up. Baron goes to Bing Chillers. If Pack-a-Paul is down, Shutdown goes over to the Amumu. Solo Masons next up has to flash away from the bandage toss to get out to safety. Him and Espada retreat towards their tower. Bing Chillers with their backs against the wall. Their season on the line. They find the fight to bring it back. They're looking for a little bit more, but Sovereign trying to get away from this curtain call. It is going to be Syndicate Coke that lose out big here at the 22-minute mark.
Unfortunate. Pack-a-Paul trying to do his best there to get in the pit. I've been in those situations where you're like, oh, I gotta make a play. But playing into this team, I don't know how you walk into an Ashe and a Mumu, a Victor, or a Gnar who are trying to do Baron when you are a lonely Graves. Collector completed, Yomu's completed. This is a Graves with, no resistances. We're not seeing the fleet footwork, sort of Black Cleaver, slightly beefier version of Graves that we sometimes see played in comp games.
Crystal Arrow's going to come through. It lands onto Frozen Spuds. They're looking to make play after play, and in goes Nahor onto 2 as well. Solo Mason doesn't have flash. Pay attention to the 80 carry of Syndicate Coke, and can Bing Chillers find him? They should be able to grab Retail Row. Espada uses the Unstoppable Force to get out to safety. Sovereign's going to follow over the wall to Pack-a-Paul. Collateral damage is going to buy him a little bit of space, but I don't think it's going to be enough. One more bandage toss will do the trick. But Pack-a-Paul trying to find the space. He has to put on his happy feet. He will dodge away from the bandage toss, but we have come full circle in this game 3 as Bing Chillers, they refuse to lose.
They have tied up the gold, basically a 1k gold deficit at this point in the game, 39.5 versus 40.5. However, with the Baron coming up, it's going to mean that by the end of this Baron push and this Baron power play, they are most likely going to have the gold advantage in this game. They certainly have the tempo, as we're seeing Syndicate try to pick up the scraps, the crumbs, the broken sort of empire that sort of collapsed underneath their feet off the series of what I can only describe as just pure hubris plays, not respecting the engage, not respecting the sheer amount of CC coming out from this team. Solo Mason, sort of the only real threat I think left in a lot of these fights to output damage that's going to outmatch BCS's sort of CC and just straight team fight comp style here. They certainly are not out of the game. They are on soul point here. It's spawning in 8 seconds. They're looking to get priority. They have it for the moment. However, this is a Baron empowered Bing Chillers. Bing Chillers has the option right now, Ferris, to just push down the mid wave. We'll see if they make that call or if they make an engage.
Fight. Retail Row is caught up by the Enchanted Crystal, but they can't take him out right now. There goes Sovereign. He has Curse to the side, but it's on to 2. Pack-a-Pull and a Spotter locked up in the front line, but Solo Mason is still free, hitting first kill. The fight's going to go over to Zumi. Super Chase finds the Gnar into the wall. Tonic gets on to Solo Mason and takes him down. Bing Chillers win the fight. It's still very close, though. 3 for 3 is ending up the end score. And this is still the soul up for grabs for both teams. It looks like they had what they needed for Bing Chillers. But in the end, 3 for 3 here, Swifty. Pack-a-Pull is still alive. They should just make a beeline for this Infernal Drake.
If you're Syndicate and you know that Mumu's down, you need to make sure you're getting in there. Pack-a-Pull is now in the pit, is now starting it. We're going to see if this is going to bite him in the butt. It probably shouldn't. It probably shouldn't. We have the Hui and the Graves on this who have a lot of damage. I think they get it. They're going to get it before it goes down. This is a Graves who has items online, is going to be able to do a lot of damage, and that is Infernal Soul secured by Pack-a-Pull. That's a lot of a damage boon, for the side of Syndicate. This is a bursty team already. A Jhin, a Graves, a Hui. It's the ideal soul, you could argue, for this team right here. However, what a bloody fight, Ferris. I believe it was a 3 for 3, right?
Yep.
The only remaining for the side of Bing Chillers being the Ashe and the Victor. I do want to bring this back to the Victor, though. In the right situation, this 706 Victor might be the key to victory here. The Hui and the Victor are both excellent sort of control mages, scaling control mages, with a lot of tools in their kit to change fights and to put out a lot of damage. However, 706 beats a 266 Hui every day of the week. Retail Row has not found his footing on this Hui, unfortunately. Quite yet, as we're going to see Sovereign go in.
Jumping onto a Spada, but that might be the mistake of the game right there. That's not the target that you want to go onto. The Malphite is happy to join the fight, but this still could be good here for Bing Chillers. Pack-a-Pull has dived straight into death. 4 versus 2 is what it remains. Solo Mason, Retail Row. Can they make the magic happen here to save the game for Syndicate? Coke, the Spiraling Despair, will be utilized by the Stasis to keep himself safe. The Victor stays alive. And so close here, Swifty. The snap engage from Espada almost brought the game back here for them. But the counter punch from Bing Chillers is still so good. Retail Row, where are you going, my friend? They're looking to try and cancel these backs. They're going to be successful in doing so.
Both of these teams, you can see the adrenaline pumping through their veins. A snap engage from the Amumu, followed by a snap engage from Espada on the Malphite with the ultimate coming through. This is high tempo, high energy, high octane gameplay we're seeing here. Any fight is sort of treading the line for either team here. That one happened to go the way of Bing Chillers, only losing one member in that fight. And like I said before, that was 2 kills and I believe 1 assist for the Victor. Untouched in that fight, is able to hold the Zonies the entire fight. Syndicate needs to realize who the threat on Bing Chillers is. In my honest opinion, I think the team fight threat is a bit of a one-trick pony here for Bing Chillers. It's working to their advantage. It's being played excellently by Zumi. However, Zumi, once the Zonies is expended, you're sort of in a bad spot as Sovereign takes a big chunk. That is Graves late game damage here.
Alive. Oh, Enchanted Crystal Arrow just goes wide. You're right, Swifty. Zumi, he's that guy right now for Bing Chillers. This Victor is online. Still hasn't even reached the point where he's buying items like Death Cap either. Yeah. He's got the Lich Bane, he's got the Luden's Companion, but is only going to get stronger and stronger. This Infernal Soul, though, has closed the gold gap and actually probably overall provides a gold lead here in terms of stats to Syndicate Coke. They want to end this game right now. They're like, we're done with all the shenanigans here, Bing Chillers. We need to win now. Otherwise, they are going to take control once again, and they're going to bring us this loss in this series. Espada, though, excellent utilization of the alone time in the bot lane to grab that tier 2 and inject a bit more gold into Syndicate Coke's team, as well as we're reaching maximum tension here in this mid to late game.
Syndicate unfortunately didn't have they have the timing for the Baron, but they don't have the comp to be able to take it that quickly. There is a downside to picking a Jhin, a Hui, and a Graves, and part of that is really speedy objective take, and they don't quite have the ability to burst it down as quickly, I think, as they wanted to there. They had a window to make a play happen and snag this Baron out from under the feet of Bing Chillers, but they don't have the speed to take it quickly enough. Bing Chillers responds, but like you said, Espada makes a great play, buys time, is able to pick up that turret on the bot side. To me, this is really anyone's game. Obviously, Infernal Soul is a huge buff, but when you're playing into a classic sort of team fight composition with an absolutely massive pre-Rabadons, pre-Void Staff item, or not, excuse me, not Void Staff, Blighting Jewel item, so it could be the Void Staff, could be possibly a Crypt Bloom, anything like that. We could even see a Shadow Flame come out, in my opinion, for this Victor. They really don't have the craziest tanks with a lot of armor. Malphite is indexed MR, excuse me. Malphite is indexed heavily into armor rather than MR. It's entirely possible we see a flat M-Pen item over the Void Staff. I'm not a mid lane mage player, so I might be wrong there in my analysis, but again, this Victor has more room to grow and is already pretty filthy in the damage department here. I think it's
available.
Flash available, zone is available. Yeah,
Flash available for Tonic.
It feels like it's anyone's game here. There are huge buffs and advantages to either side. I think this one's going to come down to who can execute when it matters the most.
Absolutely. Espada is the primary engage for the side of Syndicate Coke, which is why I brought up the summoner spells here for Zumi and for Tonic. What's the #1 counter to an unstoppable force? Well, the flash button. Get right on away from that. And that could be all that Zumi needs to just drop the Chaos Storm and absolutely annihilate the entirety of the Syndicate Coke team to bring Bing Chillers to playoffs. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 25 seconds until the Elder Drake is live on the Rift here. 31 minutes in. We've seen games this series that have gone to 7 Drakes, and now we've seen one that only goes to 4 before the Elder spawns. And both of these teams, you can see them. They're setting up for the big fight. They are preparing to see how this game ends. They're getting priority over the mid lane. They're setting up vision around this neutral objective. Espada has teleport here on the Malphite. Could look for a potential flank angle. I'm looking towards that Jhin trap there behind the entirety of the Bing Chillers team. But Swifty, we are so close to this game fight. Let's see how it happens. Sovereign and the Gnar into the wall.
Oh my God!
Could be everything for them. At the very least, the Elder Drake. That was the snap engage to all snap engages. And Bing Chillers are chilling harder than ever.
This Gnar, utterly filthy. I understand why they banned it game 1. What a great ultimate, 3-man ultimate. I was going to say, as we're talking about the setup for this, neither team can afford to lose this Elder Drake. A team with insane burst and Infernal Drake probably wins this game. But the team that can buy time in a team fight with an 11-0-7 Victor, who still does not have the Rabadons, is going to use this Elder Drake to total effect. They traded the Baron, which is, as much of a move as you can make, but this is Bing Chiller's window to put their foot on the gas to end this game, to close it out. No one can walk towards this Victor unless they invest all of their resources onto it, and they invest them properly, Ferris. This game is coming down to the wire, and I think if you're Syndicate, you're in a little bit of a back foot position here.
You absolutely are. I worry, though, about Bing Chillers with the fact that how much can they get done now with this Elder Drake? You said they have to put their foot on the gas. They have to go now, try and brute force the game-ending team fight while you have this very powerful buff that's almost going to ensure you a team fight victory with how strong your team members are. But can they get that fight is the question. They're fighting into Baron-empowered minions because Syndicate Coke was able to make that trade. So it's going to be harder for them to actually get the angle here now that Syndicate Coke knows, okay, we have to turtle, we cannot fight into this Elder. Let's utilize this Baron to keep ourselves safe. I just want to see what Bing Chillers can pull off in the next couple seconds here while they still have this Elder Drake available.
They are on a timer, like you said. They do not have the time to dilly-dally. They do not have the time to get optimal setup. They have to find their way in, and they have to find it quickly. And look at this wave clear. The way alone can absolutely shred waves on top of the, having Baron-empowered minions. It's a little bit harder. Obviously, Victor has relatively good push and good wave clear here. Ashe can do the same, especially, this late in the game. Really, a lot of champions can push waves quickly, but they don't have the time to not make a play happen. And they're going to look to get this wave in. They're going to look to take down this empowered siege minion. They're going to look to take the tower. They've got to make something happen now, Ferris.
They do. Let's see what happens here. Clearing the way very nicely, but there's the Enchanted Crystal that's going to land on the retail robot. Sovereign Bandage Toss was canceled by Frozen Spud's Dredge Line, and they kill off the Amumu. This Nautilus might just be the MVP of the game as Spot is flashing forward, going to force the flash off of Tonic. They're desperate to find the fight here, 5 versus 4. I can't get any closer than this. What does Syndicate Coke have planned now with the man advantage on the Rift?
Well, they have the man advantage and they have the Baron. They don't have the health pools from the side of Bing Chillers to try and re-engage or take a fight. They're going to back. They're going to get, quite honestly, I don't even know what item spikes are going to be up this late in the game off of just a single kill onto an Amumu. But they're going to, they're going to take a step back. They bought time off of the Elder Dragon. That is the key thing. Even if they're not going to immediately push the advantage, they're going to buy themselves a little bit more time. Utterly huge damage coming out from this Elder Soul. It's able to compete just by nature of the damage composition for the side of Syndicate with Bing Chiller's Elder Dragon. They tried to make something happen. They needed to make it happen, and they just can't quite get the play that they needed there. Elder Dragon is coming down for Bing Chillers, and that they're sort of possibly working with another 2.5 minute timer here, but that's going to buy time for this Hwei to come even more online, right? We talked about how much the Victor is an absolute threat in this game. The Rabadons has been achieved. There's only 1 item remaining for the Victor to build. Hwei, on the other hand, is 2-7 and only sitting on 3 items, none of which are nearly as potent as a Victor with Lichbane Rabadons. But when they buy themselves time, they buy themselves time for the Hwei to actually get to those items. We're closing in on some late game full build champions as we move towards the 40-minute mark post 35 here, Ferris. Again, this could be anyone's game, but it's anyone's game to lose or win at this point.
It absolutely is. We're getting to the point where the gold lead matters less and less. We're seeing these teams, they're getting very close to each other around this top side of the jungle. Very close as Nahor to getting hit by that dredge line and falling. The collateral damage from Packapal as well is committed. And you're talking about Retail Row on this way. They've been quiet this game. They've had a rough game here. But as the game progresses, like you're saying, you get those 5-6 items. All you need is one major team fight to bring your team to victory in this matchup here. We need like maybe a sort of a heartbeat meter for all of the Odyssey Cronus fans and players watching this game right now, cheering on Syndicate Coke to grab the victory to secure ODC's spot in playoffs. And even just the people watching this game right now, us watching this game on the broadcast and calling all of these plays, this is so close, man. It's so crazy intense in this one. We're going to go down to a second Elder here, Swifty, in the next couple minutes, or just 1 minute now on that second Elder. I have to believe this time, this is where one team who gets that objective is going to use it to bring themselves the victory here in this final game.
We talked about the clear adrenaline showing for both of these teams earlier in the game, and now it seems it's clearly nerves. Both teams sort of with huge windows to find ways to win this game. Bing Chillers with the Elder, Baron with the man advantage, or excuse me, Syndicate with the man advantage and Baron. However, they're playing it safe. They're not willing to throw this last game and make a mistake that's going to cost them their Nexus. These teams are playing cautious at this point because, like we said, this is anyone's game to win or lose. This is coming down to the wire. It's inches, it's centimeters that are making the difference here, and we might see something explode any second.
Espada, watch Espada on this Malphite. He's the one that's going to start the fight here for Syndicate Coke. They're playing around the low vision that Bing Chillers have near this Drake pit. The Elder Dragon is live, but the Baron as well is up too. Of course, both teams want the Elder over the Baron at this stage of the game, but there is still playmaking potential there. But Walked Up has Super Chase. He transforms into the Mega Knight, but he's already half HP, but the Enchanted Crystal Arrow is going to land here onto Pack-a-Paul. Super Chase goes into the back lane, so does Espada, but the Jin is already slain. The Gnar in the backside. Can the carries from the side of Bing Chillers stay alive? Pack-a-Paul and the rest have cleaned up the back line. Syndicate Coke, they are doing it. They're going to be able to get that 4th shot here onto Nahor, who's trying to survive, but the deadly flourish from Solo Mason will bring him down. It's only Zumi left. Triple kill for the Jin. This will be Elder Drake for Syndicate Coke. They can't end the game, but they get their prize.
Like I said, it's a one-trick pony damage composition, and when Zumi doesn't get the kills that they need early, and the Jin and the Graves, who can pop anyone at this point, get their way in a fight, this is what happens. The Elder Dragon is secured. They're going to immediately... Oh, they're not going to immediately go up. They're going to channel backs. They have the timing here, though. They have the timing here to get some items, get their footing, catch their wave. They have, Elder Dragon for the next few minutes here. Any fight that they take with this sort of team composition is going to be super, super scary for Bing Chillers. We've got a little bit of staggered back timings, but it doesn't look like it's going to matter because the death timers for Bing Chillers are so long. We see Pack-a-Paul moving up to this Baron. TP coming out from Retail Row on the way to the mid lane. They're going to grab mid lane priority. Pack-a-Paul is going to pick up this Scuttle. They're going to look to force this Baron. This is the play. You force the Baron. You force them to take a bad fight. Bing Chillers does not have a good decision to make here. And we're going to see what they do. They might just lose the Baron without a contest.
They are going to lose the Baron. It's gone now for Syndicate Coke. They have the 2 most powerful buffs in League of Legends. This game has gone on for now 40 minutes. We've crossed that 40-minute mark. Marching down 5 people strong is Syndicate Coke, and 5 people strong is Bing Chillers around their mid lane inhibitor tower to try and mount the final defense here to save their game, to save their hope at playoffs. But Syndicate Coke is marching forward. They continue the siege, and we are going to potentially see the final fight break out right here before our eyes. Curtain Call is going to roll through land onto Super Chase and the rest of the squad. And Severing Bolt is good poke as well, but the wave has been cleared except for that last cannon minion that's going to hit onto the Nexus tower and chip down that HP. Waiting for this engage. Espada has unstoppable force available. Sovereign on the side of Bing Chillers has the Curse of the Sad Mummy available and ready to go. Severing Bolts here from Retail Row are so big with that Infernal Drake alive. They just want to find the engage that they need. Onto Nahor they go. It's the Pack-a-Paul one-shots them, but the Unstoppable Force goes right here, and the Malphite's locked up underneath the tower's forced to go away with the flash, but they've taken down the Amumu. Severing Bolt is good. Pack-a-Paul gets that kill. It's 1 back for Bing Chillers, but they lose their first Nexus tower. This should just be the end of the game. All of their hope is fading. Zumi, what can you do? Tonic, what can you do? It's going to be nothing. Super Chase will have to fly back to the fountain. Pack-a-Paul grabs the last kill. The second Nexus tower will drop. The Nexus is exposed, and Syndicate Coke will play spoiler and ruin the chances here for Bing Chillers to grab the playoff spot. And what a finish to this epic best of 3.
What a wild series. Tooth and nail, back and forth, Ferris. Props to you, by the way, for not losing your voice completely on that last one. What an utterly insane fight. You might have. We'll deal with that problem tomorrow. But unbelievable gameplay there, just back and forth, adrenaline, nerves, stress, down to the wire. Syndicate Coke is able to play spoiler. Unfortunately for Bing Chillers, if we have done our math correctly, that means Bing Chillers has been eliminated from playoff contention, and Odyssey Cronus will be taking that final spot. I believe it comes down to overall win percentage in your games rather than head-to-head record, which means that this series sort of defines a lot going into playoffs. Bing Chillers, on their way out, I have to give them props, fought absolutely tooth and nail against what started as the first seed in their division, in their group, and they said no, not anymore. They're taking them down to second seed. They're going out with a bang. An absolutely stellar game from both teams here. What a game to cast to end off this regular season.
Oh yeah. It's been an absolute
Is your
pleasure.
voice okay?
My voice is going, man. I was yelling, I was screaming. There's so many people watching, trying to see how the end of this series would come about. And honestly, what an insane game number 3 to bring us to a close. That's going to do it
Crazy.
for the Titan Conqueror League regular season. We're now rolling through into playoffs. So as of next week, we will be in best of fives and seeing what the top 8 teams in the league can bring and who's going to be our champion in the next couple of weeks. That's what's on the line. Congratulations once again to Odyssey Cronus for getting into that playoff spot. Thank you to Bing Chillers for an incredible season, an incredible best of 3 to end it off. And also congrats to Syndicate Coke as well for pulling out this victory in the best of 3. And that will bring this awesome stream here at Titan Esports to a close. Thank you so much to everyone who is active in the chat, supporting their teams, talking about the matches, watching the stream, and supporting everything that's going on here. It was absolutely wonderful. Thanks to Wookie on production behind the scenes, making everything happen while this crazy game was going down. And my name is Ferris. That was Swifty. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a wonderful rest of your night. We'll see you next week.